My name is Asura, and I'm 14 years old. I live in a small, weak country called Olay, which is just one of 14 nations under the Valencia Empire. My family. We're kind of a big deal here. My grandfather Adolf helped build this country, and my father, Alfontian, is the Grand General. He commands an elite army called the Mountain Shaker Corps. My mother Qin Lan is a wood element mage, gentle, kind, the type who keeps everything running at home. And my grandpa on her side, old Qin Zongren, is a famous doctor and potion maker. Now, my brothers and sister, they're all incredible. My oldest brother Anaga is 18, a real genius with both the sword and strategy books. He's already a warrior master, first stage, and can lead armies on his own. My second brother Asubo is 15 and completely obsessed with martial arts, warrior third stage already, aiming to get into the prestigious Augustus Academy. My little sister Azia is only 12, but she's already beautiful and awakened with magic just like mom. Everyone says she has a bright future. And then there's me. Look, I'm not stupid. Actually, I'm the opposite. I can memorize anything after reading it once. But I just don't care about studying or training. Why would I? Training means suffering, and suffering means no fun. I'd rather climb rooftops, chase chickens, and pull pranks. I drove away 3 tutors and made 2 others faint. When my father threw me into the army to straighten me out, I made life interesting for the soldiers. Fake emergency drills at midnight. Firecrackers in the latrine pits. Butter on the saddles so riders slid right off their horses. The best part? I always had a perfect alibi. Nobody could pin anything on me. It all came to a head when the vice commander, Han Dang, a tough, grown man, bit into his lunch bun and found a toad inside. He marched straight to our gate and dropped to his knees, crying and begging my father to please take me out of the camp. So back home I went. My father's forehead vein pops out every time he deals with me. But Grandpa Adolf just strokes his beard and smiles. That third boy will do great things someday, he always says. Mom protects me fiercely. Whenever father starts hitting me, she pulls me into her arms and gives him this look, like she's saying, touch my baby again and you're sleeping alone tonight. My brothers always kneel and beg father to punish them instead of me, and my little sister runs to fetch mom or grandpa the second I'm in trouble. We're close like that. As for martial arts, I never actually trained, but I picked up techniques just by watching my brothers while I was being punished with standing drills, and my body got tougher from all the beatings. Somehow, I skipped right past the apprentice stage and reached warrior first stage without even trying. My grandpa Qin Zongren used to adore me too. I learned his family's secret acupuncture technique in just 3 days and mastered it within a month. He was so proud. Finally, someone to carry on the family legacy. Then he caught me using those needles to paralyze our yard dog so it couldn't walk, laughing my head off. The old man was so angry he stayed in bed for half a month. Today's beating? That was because I snuck into Grandpa's potion lab and accidentally blew up his furnace. Everything inside destroyed. He caught me trying to run, dragged me to my father's feet, and left on a long trip to calm his nerves. This time, even mom didn't step in. My brothers and sister kept their heads down and stayed quiet. Father beat me for a long time. Then he just sighed, told himself he still had 2 good sons and a good daughter, and said, go copy the medical textbook. No food until you're done. So here I am, sitting at a desk, copying a book I already have memorized cover to cover, rubbing my swollen backside and writing as fast as I can. My stomach is growling and I want dinner. But even as I complain under my breath, my mind is somewhere else, on a secret I've never told anyone. Here's my secret, the one I've never told a single soul. When I was 10 years old, I awakened a magic talent. And not just any magic, lightning magic, one of the rarest types on the entire continent. I could suddenly see silver magic particles floating in the air all around me. I remembered mom telling me stories about when she first awakened her own wood magic. I knew right away what had happened to me. I could become a mage. So why did I keep it hidden? Simple. If my family found out, they'd make me study and train even harder. And then when would I have time to have fun? So I kept my mouth shut. For whole years, not a word to anyone. I did pick up one thing, though. When mom was teaching my sister Azia the basics of magic meditation, I watched from the side and secretly learned how to do it. The first time I tried it under my blanket at night, I felt the silver lightning particles rush happily into my body. The connection felt natural, like they wanted to be part of me. What I didn't notice was that some gray-colored particles were sneaking in alongside the silver ones, vanishing the moment they entered me. But I'm a complete beginner. How would I know? Now, let me explain why nobody suspected anything. On this continent, even having martial arts talent is rare. Most people never get past the apprentice stage. Magic users are 20 times rarer than warriors. The common elements are earth, water, wood, fire, and wind. Lightning, ice, light, darkness, and space. Those are all considered rare. Both warriors and mages have 9 major ranks, each split into 3 stages. The higher you go, the harder it gets. And mages need even more resources than warriors to advance. Anyway, the real reason I got beaten today? Yesterday I read something in Grandpa's medical books about how mages can infuse their magic elements into pills during refinement to improve the quality. That got me curious. So today I snuck into Grandpa's alchemy room while nobody was there. His furnace was already running, cooking up some calming pills, medicine to help him recover from the stress I had already caused him. The problem was, I've never actually learned how to use magic. I had no idea how to release the lightning energy inside me. But then my brain came up with an idea. I might not know magic techniques, but I know the human body's meridian system from all those medical books. I focused my mind and started guiding the lightning element through my meridians. At first it behaved, flowing smoothly through the channels. But then it started growing, rolling bigger and bigger like a snowball, moving faster and faster. I was losing control. Cold sweat dripped down my forehead. I knew I couldn't hold it any longer. I gritted my teeth, focused everything I had, and forced the energy out through the Laogong point in my palm. What came out was a grape-sized silver ball of light. It flickered bright and dim, big and small, and drifted lazily toward Grandpa's furnace. Something in my gut told me this was dangerous. I bolted for the door and peeked back in with half my head sticking out. The moment that little ball touched the furnace, boom. A thunderclap shook the entire room. Grandpa's beloved Grade 3 furnace, forged from earth core iron so tough that even my father couldn't crack it at full power, was covered in fractures. The room was wrecked. The pills were gone, blown to who knows where. I wiped the sweat off my face and ran. I needed to not be at the scene. I was almost out of the building when I crashed right into Grandpa, who had heard the explosion and came rushing back. One look at my shifty eyes, and he knew I was involved. He grabbed me by the back of my collar and dragged me to the alchemy room. When he saw the damage, his veins nearly popped. But then he noticed the cracks on the furnace and froze. He knew even my father couldn't do that kind of damage. So what did this brat do? How did you do this to my furnace? Tell me the truth, he demanded. No way I was confessing. I'd take this secret to my grave. It wasn't me, Grandpa. I was just walking by when I heard the explosion. It scared me, so I ran, and then I bumped into you. That's all. He knew I was lying. If I'd really just heard a random explosion, my nosy self would have rushed toward it, not away from it. He pressed me again and again, but I stuck to my story. I even had the nerve to suggest that maybe his alchemy went wrong and the furnace blew up on its own. That nearly made the old man pass out. He dragged me to my father, dropped me at his feet, and left on his trip without looking back. He also planned to find a new furnace somewhere. So here I am, copying a book I already memorized, rubbing my sore backside, starving. Then the door creaked open just a crack. A little head with a bun hairstyle poked through. "Third brother," my sister called sweetly. I looked up, tossed my pen down, flopped onto the desk, and stretched out my hand toward her. "Finally, I'm starving. Hand it over." She giggled and pulled a big piece of braised beef from inside her jacket, just like she always does. Then she picked up my pen and started copying the medical book for me. We've done this so many times it's like a routine. Every time I get punished and can't eat, she sneaks me food and helps me with my copying. I tore into the beef and asked between bites, "So how's it looking?" As father calmed down, she pouted her pretty little face. "You made him really angry this time." Mom's upset too. Usually she sends medicine for your injuries along with the food. This time she only let me bring food. "Eat fast," she added. "Big brother and second brother are keeping father busy out front. I can't stay long." Hearing about the missing medicine made my backside sting even worse. I winced and grumbled. Father is so unfair. He has 4 kids, but only ever beats me. Am I even really his? Then I puffed up my chest. Just you wait. 30 years on the East Bank, 30 years on the West. One day I'll become the greatest warrior in the world, and then you'll what, exactly? A stern voice cut me off from the doorway. That voice hit me like ice water. Every hair on my body stood up. I turned around stiffly, and there was my father, standing in the doorway with a stone-cold face. My sister dropped the pen and scurried to the corner of the desk, head down. Father walked in slowly. Go on. Finish what you were saying. After you become the greatest warrior in the world, then what? I saw that cold smile on his lips. Every beating I'd ever received flashed before my eyes. I knew one wrong word meant another round, so I put on my best flattering voice. When I become number one, I'll fly back to Olay in glory. I'll bring honor to the off family name. Everyone will know that a great father raises great sons. They'll come from everywhere asking you how you raised such an amazing child. And then I'll have lots of kids to grow our family. And under your leadership, we'll become the greatest clan in the world. Father's eye twitched. His lip twitched. His hand twitched. Next to me, my sister's face turned red from holding in her laughter. He glanced at her. Have you finished your magic homework? She was gone before he finished the sentence. Didn't even look back. Ran straight to Mom. Traitor, I thought. I looked at Father's expressionless face and had no idea what to do with my hands. I forced a smile that probably looked worse than crying. He was studying me too. I could feel it. Tall and lean for 14, sharp features, bright eyes, black hair tied back loosely. I guess I looked decent enough, if you ignored the stupid grin on my face. Then something changed. He sat down at the desk. The room went quiet. After a long silence, he spoke in a voice I'd never heard from him before, soft, almost sad. Do you remember? No matter how much trouble you caused, your grandfather always said the same thing. That third boy will do great things someday. I had no idea where this was going. I thought for a second and said, Grandpa really knows how to judge people. His forehead vein jumped again. I watched him physically calm himself down before continuing. Out of all four of you, you have the most natural talent. If you focused on training, you could surpass everyone in this family. I wasn't expecting that. I answered carefully. I think big brother and second brother are pretty talented too. He looked at me hard. Your big brother is talented, yes. But he's the eldest son of a military family. The Mountain Shaker Corps must be led by an Ah. He spent years studying tactics and strategy instead of cultivating his own strength. His martial level will probably end up about the same as mine. He knows his duty. He's never once asked to go study at the academy. He's getting married this year to Prime Minister Su's daughter. He kept going before I could respond. Your second brother lives and breathes martial arts. But he's stubborn, inflexible, and his raw talent has limits. Hard work got him this far, but he'll slow down later. Our family doesn't have advanced techniques to push him further. If he gets into Augustus Academy this year, at least that dream comes true. Your little sister has good talent, but she's as playful as you. Our family doesn't have the resources to raise a high-level mage. Your mother is only mage 3rd stage, and even that took your grandfather's entire life savings as a doctor to achieve. Your sister will go further than your mother, but in the end, she'll marry into another family. I stood there in silence. Everything he said was true, but I didn't understand why he was telling me all this. We had big brother and second brother. What did the family need me for? He seemed to read my mind. Our Olay kingdom is just one small vassal state under the Valencia Empire. Our family holds a minor hereditary title. Wars surround us constantly. Court officials accuse us of hoarding military power. It's no exaggeration to say we face threats from both inside and outside. I've been stuck at Grand Warrior 3rd stage for a long time. I can't find a way to break through. Your grandfather was once a magic warrior 2nd stage at his peak, but after a lifetime of war and serious injuries, he's fallen back to Grand Warrior 1st stage. We both know our limits. We know what we can give this family. If the Off family is going to survive, every single one of your generation needs to fight and push forward. This world isn't as kind as you think it is. The strong survive. That's the one truth that never changes. He stood up, put his hand on my shoulder, and left without another word. I stood there for a long time. Then I turned around, picked up my pen, and went back to copying the medical book. But this time I wrote slowly, carefully. For the first time in 14 years, I was truly quiet. I copied until dawn painted the sky pale white, then fell asleep on the desk. I didn't know that Father came to the door and saw me sleeping with my brows twisted tight. He didn't know if what he'd said was right or wrong. He sighed and walked away. I woke to screaming. Footsteps pounding through the mansion. Servants shouting in panic. Someone come quick. Something happened to the young master. A terrible feeling hit me in the chest. I forgot about the pain in my body and ran toward the front gate. When I got there, a crowd had already gathered. Father was roaring in fury. Second brother was cursing. Mother was crying. Servants were yelling. All the sounds crashed together. I slowed down. With every step I prayed, "Please, no bad news. Please." Then I saw it. Second brother knelt on the ground, eyes blood red, holding Big Brother in his arms. Big Brother, a Naga, was barely recognizable. His body was covered in wounds. Both knees were soaked in blood. His breathing was faint, his consciousness gone. Someone had tortured him and dumped him at our front door. My mind went blank. Then I moved. I ran back inside, grabbed my silver needles, and rushed to Big Brother's side. I used the acupuncture technique Grandpa taught me to stop the bleeding. As I worked, my hands found broken bones throughout his body. And then I discovered it. Someone had cut out both of his kneecaps. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I threw my head back and screamed at the sky until my throat tore. That's when I heard laughter coming from the street. A young man in fine silk clothes strolled out of the shadows with 4 warriors behind him. He walked toward us casually, talking as he came. "What's all the screaming? Is he dead?" I told them to leave him alive. "Can't he take a beating? Did he die already?" Ha ha ha. Before he finished laughing, I was already moving. I shot toward him like a shadow, a silver needle in my hand aimed straight at his eye. I wanted to make sure this bastard never laughed again. But one of the warriors stepped forward and kicked me. I flew back several meters. I spat blood, got up, and charged again. The warrior grinned and threw a punch. But this time a figure stepped between us, my father, catching the punch with his own fist. The warrior stumbled back a few steps and smirked. "The great general of the Mountain Shaker Corps. Is that all you've got?" Father grabbed me and held me back. Fighting down his rage, he demanded, "You did this to my son? Why? Do you think the Ah family is easy to bully?" The silk-robed young man sneered. "Humph. Other people might fear you, Ah Fengtian, but I don't. I am Sankoin, eldest son of the Blackwater family. Your king treats me with respect. You're just a glorified guard dog. What are you, exactly?" My father's fury nearly boiled over. But now he knew who we were dealing with. The Blackwater family was a martial arts clan with many experts. Their patriarch and grand elder were both magic warrior 3rd stage. In a tiny country like Olay, they answered to no one, not even the crown. "My family has no grudge with the Blackwater clan," Father said through clenched teeth. "Why would you do this to my eldest son?" Sankoin's face twisted with malice. "I wanted your son's fiancée, Prime Minister Su's daughter, Su Yinger. But that worthless woman refused me. She shaved her own head and was ready to die rather than be with me. No woman has ever told me no. So I figured, let's see if she still wants to marry your son after I turn him into a cripple." Ha 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 ha. Before he finished laughing, a blade sliced through the air toward his face. His warriors yanked him back, just in time. Sankoin broke out in cold sweat. My grandfather Adolf stood in the middle of the courtyard, broadsword in hand, beard and hair bristling with rage. "You've pushed the Ah family too far. You think this old man can't swing a blade anymore." Sankoin's fear turned to spite. "Try it again, old man. I dare you. I know your cultivation has dropped. I have 2 Grand Warrior 3rd stage fighters with me. Maybe you and your son can handle them, but can the rest of your family? Touch me and I'll slaughter everyone here. And go ahead, call the Mountain Shaker Corps. See if your king still keeps you around after that." "Heh heh heh." Grandfather trembled with rage. He had never been humiliated like this in his entire life. But to protect the family behind him, he slowly lowered his sword. Then second brother looked up. His eyes were crimson, burning with hatred, locked onto Sankoin. "I will remember today. I swear I'll come for you. Every single person who hurt my brother. I won't let a single one go." Sankoin flinched at those blood-red eyes. Then he snarled back. "I know who you are, Asubo. I looked into all you worthless brothers. You're not even worth my attention. Oh, and aren't you trying to get into Augustus Academy this year? Planning to come back stronger and settle this? Let me tell you something, you'll never make it there. I'll have people watching every road. You won't get anywhere near that exam. We're inside Olay City today. The Blackwater family has an old agreement with your royal family not to kill within city walls. But outside the city, crushing you would be like stepping on an ant." Ha ha. Second brother's fists clenched so hard they cracked. Sankoin hadn't just crippled our brother. He was trying to destroy second brother's dream too. But me? As I listened to all of Sankoin's arrogant words, something strange happened. I became calm, completely calm. I stared at every single one of their faces and burned them into my memory. I knew I couldn't do anything right now, but I swore to myself. These people would suffer 100 times what they did to Big Brother. Blood for blood. The troublemaker kid everyone gave up on. He grew up in that moment. Sankoin gave us one last contemptuous look, spat on the ground, and swaggered away. Behind him, a boy stood perfectly still, watching his back until he disappeared at the end of the street. Half a month passed. The mansion felt like a tomb. The servants tiptoed around, afraid to make a sound. Everyone in my family was broken in their own way. Big Brother Anaga sat in a wheelchair, dressed in white, face completely blank. He held a book of military strategy in his hands, but he never turned a single page. Second Brother Asubo stopped training. Instead, he drank, every day, every night. He'd get completely wasted and then scream and mumble nonsense into the air. Grandfather Adolf went silent. He spent his days alone in the ancestral hall or at grandmother's grave, muttering apologies to the family. Mother cried from morning to night. She tore through every medical book Grandpa Chin left behind, searching desperately for any way to help Big Brother walk again. She knew that even if Grandpa were here, he couldn't fix this. Somewhere in the world there had to be rare medicines that could regrow bone, but those were treasures a small-time general's family could never get. Every time she saw Big Brother in that wheelchair, it cut her like a knife. Father went back and forth between the military camp and home every day, his face showing nothing. But 2 streaks of white hair appeared at his temples overnight. My little sister Azia stopped smiling. The cheerful girl was gone. She practiced her wood magic every single day. She'd heard that high-level wood magic could heal severe injuries, and she made it her mission to learn it, even though she'd never even seen magic of that rank before. And me? I locked myself in my room for 3 days. No food, no water. I just sat there, hating myself for being so useless when it mattered. During those 3 days, I wrote a letter to Big Brother's fiancée, the girl who shaved her head rather than submit to Sankoin. I told her that Big Brother would stand again, and that she would marry into our family. I swore on my life that within 10 years I would destroy the Blackwater family. At the end of the letter, I called her sister-in-law for the first time and told her to take care of herself. On the morning of the 3rd day, I walked out of my room and went straight to the training grounds. I stood in the center, sunlight falling on my face. I looked at the weapon rack, rows of swords, spears, and blades. I reached for one, then pulled my hand back. Part of me was afraid. Part of me felt embarrassed. This was the place I'd always avoided. These were the things I'd always refused to touch. After a moment, I grabbed a broadsword. Drawing on memories of watching Father teach my brothers years ago, I started swinging, one move at a time. I hated that I woke up so late. I hated that I picked up the blade so late. I was drenched in sweat when I heard a crash behind me. I spun around and saw a second brother on the ground, a wine jug shattered beside him. I ran over and helped him up. Second brother, please stop drinking. I know you're hurting, but you've got the Augustus Academy exam coming up. You can't keep going like this. He laughed, a sad, hollow laugh that went on too long. Then he said, not bad with the sword, Asura, but I'm not going to the academy anymore. Don't worry about me. A couple more days of drinking and I'll stop. What do you mean you're not going? That's been your dream. Are you scared of the Blackwater family? He stared at the broken jug. The Blackwater family is my enemy. I will destroy them. I'm not afraid of them, but Big Brother can't stand anymore. The family needs me. The Mountain Shaker Corps needs me. What Big Brother was supposed to do, I'll do it now. I'll protect the family. The academy doesn't matter anymore. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. Then he put his hand on my shoulder and looked me in the eye. Ashura, your talent is way beyond mine. You're the family's hope now. Take my dream with you. Go to the academy for me. Become someone powerful on this continent. That's my dream. I need you to make it real. I'd never thought about any of this. I never imagined that after Big Brother fell, Second Brother would give up everything he wanted just to stand in the gap. I looked into his eyes and saw the pain and the hope tangled together. I didn't say a word. I just nodded hard. Then Father's voice came from behind us. Ashura, do you truly want to go to the academy? He walked up to us, looking at his 2 sons with an expression I couldn't read. I didn't hesitate. Yes, Father. I want to get into Augustus Academy. When I come back, I'll make the Blackwater family pay. Father's eyes softened with something close to guilt. I failed as a father. I've let you all down. We both shook our heads. I spoke first. The family's future is everyone's responsibility. It's time for us to carry that weight. He looked at me. Really looked at me. The boy who used to laugh all the time hadn't smiled in weeks. Then he got serious. Your brother needs to take over as vice commander of the Mountain Shaker Corps. And the Blackwater family has placed spies with his portrait in every town along the road to Augustus Academy. If they spot him, they'll kill him. Then I'll go instead, I said immediately. I'll pass the exam. I know I can. Father shook his head. You can't go to Augustus either. The Blackwater family is watching every route. If you go alone, something could happen, and your grandfather and I can't leave the family unprotected to escort you. Besides, every academy requires applicants to reach Warrior 3rd Stage or Mage 3rd Stage before age 16. You're only Warrior 1st Stage. The exam is less than 6 months away. You can't make it, he sighed. The academy only recruits once every 3 years. If you miss this round, you'll be too old for the next one. I clenched my fists. No, there had to be a way. Then it hit me. Father, the Valencia Empire has more than one academy. If I can't go to Augustus, I'll go to St. Gobain Academy instead. It's far away, on the other end of the empire. The Blackwater family won't be watching those roads. I know I'm only Warrior 1st Stage, but I will reach 3rd Stage in 6 months. I will get into St. Gobain Academy. Father stared at me, stunned by how sure I sounded. After a long pause, he said, This isn't a game. St. Gobain is on the far side of the empire. The journey is incredibly dangerous. You've never even left Olay City in your life. How can we let you go, and when would you train? You'd spend all your time traveling. Even if you reached St. Gobain, you'd fail the exam. It won't work. I looked him straight in the eyes. Father, please believe me. I can do this. I'll grow stronger at St. Gobain, and I'll come back to wash away our family's shame with my own hands. Second brother stepped in. Father, I believe in him. We all know he's the smartest and most gifted one among us. Father spoke quietly. The academies are full of geniuses from across the continent. Don't think your talent makes you special. Don't be a frog at the bottom of a well. He paused and closed his eyes for a moment. Then he opened them. If you want to go out into the world, I'll support you. But promise me one thing. Until you're truly strong, keep your head down. Stay quiet. Grow in the shadows. Even if you don't get into the academy, keep training out there and get stronger. You've always been reckless. That's what worries me most. This family can't take another disaster. Can you promise me this? I thought about it, then nodded. I promise. I'll keep a low profile. Play the pig to eat the tiger. Father gave me a long, deep look. Come to the training grounds tomorrow at dawn. I'll teach you our family's ultimate technique, the Thunder Rush Fist. Learn it, then leave as soon as you can. Don't disappoint me. He turned and walked away. The next morning I showed up at the training grounds before dawn, dressed and ready. Father arrived looking tired. He stared at me for a moment, and I caught a weird smile sneaking onto his face. I had no idea what that was about. I also noticed faint scratch marks on the side of his neck, which confused me even more. What I didn't know was that when he told Mother about his plan to send me away, she nearly attacked him. She actually pulled out her magic staff. He barely talked her down. But he had no choice. The Blackwater family was pressuring the king to move against our family. Sending me away might be the safest option for everyone. He snapped back to business fast. We don't have time. I'm teaching you our family's ultimate technique, the Thunder Rush Fist. Memorize everything. Once you've mastered it, you leave immediately. Understood? I nodded hard. I'll learn it well. Without another word, he started demonstrating all 8 moves of the Thunder Rush Fist right there in the training grounds, explaining every detail and sharing his personal insights as he went. I watched without blinking. On this continent, martial and magic techniques are ranked in 5 tiers: white, green, blue, purple, and yellow, from lowest to highest. Our family's Thunder Rush Fist is blue tier. Even the royal family of Olay might not have anything purple tier, let alone yellow. The Thunder Rush Fist is pure power, fierce and explosive. When you master it, every punch creates a thunderclap and sends force through the enemy's body. At the minor mastery level, you get 2 thunderclaps and 2 waves of penetrating force. At full mastery, 3 thunderclaps, 3 waves, each one stronger than the last. Father had spent nearly 30 years perfecting this technique. He'd reached full mastery. Every single punch of his 8-move sequence cracked with 3 thunderclaps. It was incredible. When he finished, he turned to me. This is our family's greatest technique. I wanted to teach you before, but you always refused. Now that you've seen it once, how much do you remember? I tilted my head and thought for a second. All of it, he froze. Then he remembered my memory and said, Good. Show me. Don't worry about mistakes. Just focus on feeling the power in each move. I stepped forward, stood firm, and closed my eyes for a moment, replaying everything he'd just done. Then I started. I could feel father watching from the side. At first his expression was stern. Then I noticed it shifting, his eyes getting wider with each move. I was nailing every motion, every detail, every angle. And then on my last punch, boom, a thunderclap. Father stood there with his mouth hanging open like he'd been struck by actual lightning. I was thrilled. A thunderclap meant I was doing it right. Only on the last punch, though. I turned to father hoping for some advice. He just stared at me. I had to call, "Father," twice before he snapped out of it. He swallowed hard. "Not bad. Have you practiced this before?" "No." I knew big brother and second brother could do it, but I never watched them train. Just seeing martial arts used to give me a headache. He let out a long, slow breath. "Then keep practicing. When every punch has a thunderclap, you can leave." I nodded. "I'll master it as fast as I can." He waved me off and walked away, hands behind his back. But I didn't see his right hand, clenched so tight the knuckles were white. What I didn't know was the storm going on inside him. When he was 14, grandfather Adolf had taught him this same technique. Grandpa had to demonstrate it 3 times before father memorized it. And it took him 8 days to produce his first thunderclap. Grandpa had smiled and called him a natural. Big brother Inaga did it in 4 days. Second brother Asubo took 7. And me, the kid he used to want to beat 3 times a day, I did it on my very first try. Behind him, thunder kept booming from the training grounds, proving it wasn't a fluke. Father apparently walked up to a tree, punched it hard enough to shake every leaf off, and muttered angrily, "What the hell was that brat doing all these years?" I didn't know any of that. I just kept punching. I didn't leave the training grounds all day. When servants brought food, I shoveled a few bites and went right back to training. I didn't notice the people watching me from the edges of the grounds. Father standing, with his arms behind his back, second brother holding a wine jug, big brother sitting silently in his wheelchair, my little sister with her bun hairstyle, grandfather with his white beard. I punched through the night. And when the first ray of morning sunlight hit the training grounds, I threw all 8 punches, and every single one boomed with thunder. I collapsed onto the ground, grinning like an idiot. For the first time in my life, I knew what it felt like to work hard at something and succeed. The watchers turned and quietly walked away. Their footsteps sounded lighter than before. Something like hope had been born in our mansion. At noon, I packed my things. Time was short. I had to reach St. Goban Academy before enrollment closed. This was my only chance. Grandfather came up behind me and held out a belt. I turned and saw his warm, gentle smile. "Take this, boy. It has a storage space inside. Only about the size of a study room, but it'll make traveling a lot easier." My throat tightened. I knew that belt. The king of Olay had given it to grandfather as a reward for helping build the nation. It was earned with blood and nearly cost him his life. And now he was handing it to me. "Grandpa, I can't." He waved me off before I could finish. "It's just a belt with some storage space. If it's useful to you, then it's serving its purpose. I wish I had better equipment to give you. I hope your journey goes well." I bit down hard and nodded, then strapped it around my waist. When I reached out with my mind, I could feel the space inside. Not huge, but big enough for weapons, clothes, and food. Then Mother walked in holding a wooden box. Her face was a mess of emotions. I was always the kid who gave her the most trouble, but also the one who knew best how to make her smile. "These are healing pills your grandfather left behind. They're not high grade, but they work well enough. Take this set of silver needles too. Be careful out there. Don't get yourself hurt." She kept going, fussing and worrying. The old me would have covered my ears and run away. But now I didn't want her to stop. Then second brother wheeled big brother in. Asubo looked different today. No alcohol, no red eyes. He looked like the martial arts fanatic I remembered. He pulled a pair of twin sabers from behind his back. "Asura, I don't have much to give you. These blades are decent quality. Use them to protect yourself." I took them with a grin and spun them in a flashy move. "Thanks, second brother. Now I really look like a master." He shook his head at me, but I could tell his mood lifted. Then big brother spoke. It was the first time he'd said much of anything since it happened. A small smile crossed his face as he held out a coin pouch. "Asura, I don't have anything special for you either. Take this money for the road." I looked at the pouch, but didn't reach for it. "Isn't this the bride price for sister-in-law?" His smile froze. Then he gave a bitter laugh. "The Blackwater family is too powerful. Even though she refused them with her life, Prime Minister Sue's family already returned the money." He paused, then smiled again. "Take it. I don't need it anymore. If you don't, I'll give it to your second brother for his future wedding." And when you have nothing, don't come crying that I played favorites. I looked at him, my big brother who always stood in front of me when there was danger, who always took the blame when I messed up. Then I smiled. Fine, consider this an investment in a future powerhouse. When I get strong, I'll pay you back 100 times over. Guaranteed good deal. He laughed and shook his head, then handed over the pouch. Then a small, pale hand reached out too. My little sister Azia, tears streaming down her face, held out a few gold coins in her fist. Then I'm investing too, third brother. Remember, 100 times back when you're strong. I hugged her first. Then I took the coins. Asura always keeps his word. Fair deals, no tricks. I'll give you back a whole bag of gold coins for your wedding dowry someday. She burst out laughing through her tears and hid her red face in mother's arms. Our family had always been frugal. Any spare money went to injured soldiers as pensions. Those few coins were every bit of allowance my little sister had saved over the years. It was everything she had. I packed it all into the storage belt, then turned and walked out the door. Father stood there, looking like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. I turned back one last time. I will become strong. I will come back and protect this family. Wait for me. I looked at each of them. Really looked, burning every face into my memory. Then I turned and ran. But not through the front gate. I knew the Blackwater family had spies watching. Instead, I took a few running steps and vaulted over the wall. As I sailed over, one thought burned in my mind. Blackwater family, you forced me to leave my own home by climbing a wall today. When I come back, I'm going to tear down yours. A few jumps and I vanished at the end of the street. I hid in an alley near the city gate, peeking out from the shadows. This was already the third gate I checked. Every single one had Blackwater family goons stationed there, scanning every face that passed through. If I showed myself, they'd come after me instantly. Getting out of the city was my biggest problem. Lucky for me, this particular gate faced the opposite direction from Augustus Academy, so the Blackwater presence here was the weakest. I looked at the busy market near the gate, watched the crowds flowing in and out, and a grin spread across my face. I had an idea. A little while later, a group of kids came running back through the gate, clutching silver coins and shouting at the top of their lungs. Mom, there are silver coins in the bushes outside the city. We found them. I want braised pork for dinner. People stared in shock. A woman selling street food grabbed her own kid, snatched his coin, and bit it. Real silver. One coin was enough to feed her family for a month. Where did you find it? She demanded. In the woods just outside. Not far at all. That was all it took. The fast thinkers were already sprinting for the gate. The slow ones saw everyone running and followed. Within minutes, a stampede of people poured out of the city, shoving and yelling. The Blackwater guards had no idea what was happening. They couldn't check anyone with that kind of chaos. Soon the market was empty except for some vendors crying over their abandoned stalls. I slipped out with the crowd, easy as breathing. The whole thing was my plan, of course. I'd given those kids the silver coins, told them exactly what to say, and promised them another coin each when they came back. I'd also left a few more coins in the alley where I'd been hiding. The kids would find them and think the story was real. I looked back at the city gate one last time. Then I strapped second brother's twin sabers to my back and ran towards St. Gobain City. I stayed off the main roads. I took back trails and cut through forests, partly to avoid the Blackwater family, partly because I planned to fight wild beasts along the way to build up my strength. The entrance exam required Warrior 3rd stage, and I was only at 1st stage. Turns out there weren't many wild beasts. What I found instead were bandits. Lots of them. At first I held back. I'd fight them off, but wouldn't kill. That changed the day I found a poor girl, the same age as my sister Azia, who'd been tortured to death by a group of bandits. After that, I killed every bandit I met without hesitation. Killing them was saving others. I understood that now. One night, deep in a forest, I sat by a stream roasting a wolf over a campfire. I'd always loved messing around with food. Back home, most of the little animals I caught ended up cooked and eaten. Now here I was eating wolf meat. For the record, wolf meat tastes terrible. 3 months had passed since I left home. Every day was walking, fighting, sleeping on the ground. The soft life was gone. The goofy grin I used to wear had changed into something sharper, more dangerous. I'd broken through to Warrior 2nd stage somewhere along the way, almost without noticing. Small breakthroughs like that just seemed to happen naturally for me. Living alone in the wild taught me a lot, but it was also incredibly lonely. I'm someone who loves being around people, and I hadn't had a real conversation in 3 months. I stared up at the moon and sighed. I wonder how everyone's doing at home. Did Grandpa Chin come back? Did he heal Big Brother's legs? Is sister-in-law still waiting for Big Brother? I muttered questions to nobody, leaned against a tree, and drifted off to sleep. I really missed home. The next morning I woke at sunrise, stretched, checked my direction, and started running toward a town called Spirit Spring. I'd put enough distance between me and the Blackwater family's reach by now, and I couldn't keep hiking through mountains and forests if I wanted to reach St. Gobain in time. I needed to buy a mount. Spirit Spring was a small town, famous for a natural spring that supposedly boosted your power and extended your life if you drank from it. Being me, I obviously had to try it. I got down on all fours and gulped the water straight from the pool. Then I looked up and saw a cow doing the exact same thing right next to me. My mood instantly soured. I headed to a mount dealer. A thin man in his 40s with a curly goatee rushed over to greet me. His name was Zaha. Despite my plain clothes, he seemed to sense I came from money. "Sir, I'm Zaha at your service. Whatever you need, I'll make sure you leave satisfied. I want to see your mounts," I said. He led me to the sales yard. I'd never been to a place like this before. There were over a dozen horse breeds, plus wind wolves, ground dragons, unicorns, and even tamed flying beasts. Magic beasts had to be fitted with a beast control ring after being tamed. It lowered their aggression and made them obey commands. Higher-level beasts were harder to tame, and a weak master couldn't earn their respect. I wanted a magic beast badly. How cool would it be to ride one? But I was too weak to control anything like that, and showing up on a rare beast would attract exactly the kind of attention Father told me to avoid. "I need a dragon horse," I said. "The fastest one you've got." Zaha looked a little disappointed. He'd been hoping for a big sale. But then his eyes lit up. "Actually, sir, we do have a dragon horse. Magnificent creature. Absolutely 1,000-mile-a-day stallion. But we haven't been able to tame it. Still completely wild. Would you be interested?" Now that sounded fun. I told him to show me. He led me to a stable where a massive black horse was tied down with ropes. Pure black, not a single spot of color anywhere on its body. It was stunning. Two big handlers took turns whipping it, but the horse screamed in defiance. You could hear in its cry that it would never submit. I told them to stop. I walked around the horse slowly, studying it. The black horse watched me. This black-haired kid circling it like a curious cat, and snorted twice, looking down at me with pure contempt. That made me like it even more. As for taming it, I had an idea. A very me kind of idea. "Everyone out," I said. "I need to have a chat with this horse." Zaha looked baffled, but didn't argue. He left with the handlers. Alone with the horse, I gave it my best troublemaker smile. The horse saw that grin and, for reasons it probably couldn't explain, felt a chill run down its spine. "Can you understand me?" I asked. The horse ignored me, just tossed its head. I shrugged and pulled out a bundle. "See, I learned a little medicine when I was young. These are acupuncture needles. I'm not sure if they work on horses, but I'd love to find out. So please cooperate. I want to show you the joys of acupuncture." The horse had some intelligence. It could understand human speech, but it had no idea what acupuncture was. It eyed the long needles suspiciously. Were those torture tools? Was this kid trying to break it through pain? I pulled out a single needle. "First needle, your left hind leg goes numb." Before it could react, I flicked the needle into the pressure point. No pain, but suddenly the horse's left leg went completely dead. It stumbled, nearly falling. It stared at me in horror as I pulled out another needle, still smiling. Second needle, right hind leg, another flick. The horse's back end collapsed and it sat down on the ground, rear legs useless. It thrashed around, trying to stand on legs that wouldn't respond. I slowly drew a third needle, grinning wider. "Now this one goes in your front." "Oh wait, no. I almost forgot. You have another leg back there." I pointed the needle downward. "This one is going to make that leg go numb." I raised my hand to throw. The horse clamped its teeth onto my sleeve and held on for dear life. It looked at me with wide, terrified eyes, pure fear, pure begging. And slowly, very slowly, it lowered both front legs to the ground and knelt before me. I named the horse Black Coal. He hated it, but he hated my acupuncture needles more, so he kept his complaints to snorts. We'd been riding at full speed all day, and neither of us was tired. As the sky turned orange, I patted his head. "Black Coal, find us some water up ahead. We're camping," he snorted, his way of saying he disapproved of everything about me, but obeyed. After we found a spot near a stream, I let him graze and drink while I headed into the forest to hunt something for dinner. But as I walked deeper, I noticed something wrong. No animal tracks anywhere. An experienced hunter notices these things, and months of surviving in the wild had turned me into one. Then my ears caught a sound. I scrambled up the nearest tree, pulled a short blade, pressed myself against the trunk, and hid in the leaves. I slowed my breathing way down. Footsteps rustled through the undergrowth. A group of people in black robes emerged, hooded cloaks covering their faces, wide sleeves, all moving like trained fighters. From my angle above, I couldn't see any of their faces. The leader stopped just ahead of my tree and looked down at the road below. His voice was raspy and cold. "This is the route those little runts will take. Set up the ghost lock formation here. Tomorrow, follow my lead. Don't let a single one escape. As you command," the others answered in unison. They spread out across the road in a circle about 30 meters wide. Some dug holes and buried things. Others carved magic patterns into the ground. I could see every move clearly from above. I didn't know much about formations, but I'd read about the basics in Grandpa's books. Every formation needs magic runes and energy cores placed in advance, and the final step is always the formation eye, the key to both activating and breaking it. After they finished, the leader inspected their work and nodded. Then he walked 8 steps to the right, 9 steps backward, and behind a large tree, he planted a small black flag into the ground. The instant the flag went in, a wave of ghostly wailing erupted from the entire circle. Then everything went silent again. The leader let out a creepy laugh, waved his hand, and all the black-robed figures vanished into the forest. At first, I thought the Blackwater family had tracked me down, but this clearly had nothing to do with me. Still, I could feel danger radiating off these people. I was stuck. They were probably hiding nearby, and if I moved, they'd spot me. I was only Warrior 2nd stage. No way I could escape fighters like these. My biggest worry was Black Coal. If that stupid horse came looking for me because I was gone too long, I'd be exposed. So I hugged that tree trunk all night long, tense and awake. Thankfully, Black Coal stayed put, but a whole night without sleep, muscles locked tight, heart pounding. It was miserable. I just wanted to get out of here and make it to St. Goban Academy. That was all that mattered. The forest stayed dead silent. No insects, no birds. I had no idea where the black-robed figures were hiding. I held on until midday, starting to doze off, when hoofbeats reached my ears. I snapped awake and looked down the road. A caravan was approaching, and as it got closer, I realized it was a group of dwarves. 10 wagons loaded with goods, surrounded by about 20 dwarf warriors. They were short but incredibly muscular, wearing leather armor, every one of them bearded, each carrying the same weapon, a battle axe. Their leader walked at the front holding an axe almost as tall as he was. His knotted muscles looked like they could crush stone. He scanned the surroundings as he walked and seemed to frown slightly, but he didn't stop. I'd never seen dwarves before. Grandpa had told me about them, short-tempered but kind-hearted, master blacksmiths who loved alcohol more than anything. They weren't particularly friendly toward humans, though. Earning a dwarf's trust was no easy thing. I put it together fast. Little runts. That's what the black-robed leader had said last night. These dwarves were the target. Every instinct told me those black-robed people were bad news. I couldn't stand watching the dwarves walk into a trap, but I didn't dare move. All I could do was grip the tree and worry silently. The dwarf caravan rolled completely into the 30-meter circle. The horses pulling the wagons suddenly froze, sensing something wrong. The dwarf leader finally felt the danger and raised his hand to halt the convoy. Every dwarf warrior hefted their axe and formed a defensive ring, eyes scanning the trees. "You little runts finally showed up. I've been waiting a long time." That raspy voice echoed through the forest. Black-robed figures stepped out from every direction, surrounding the caravan completely. The dwarves didn't flinch. If anything, they looked eager to fight. The dwarf leader slammed his massive axe into the ground hard enough to shake leaves off the trees. "Who are you? Were you the ones who attacked our tribe? Are you ready to face the fury of the dwarves?" The black-robed leader scoffed. "Don't bother asking who we are. Just call me master from now on. Come quietly and forge weapons for us. You little runts are useful for that much." The dwarf leader grabbed his axe and charged. Dwarves don't waste time with words. Their rage and their blades do the talking. But he barely made it a few steps before crimson chains erupted from the ground. They lashed around every dwarf warrior, binding them tight. The leader swung his axe and chopped through several chains, but they reformed instantly like flowing water. The dwarves' movements grew slower and slower. The black-robed leader cackled. "Inside my ghost lock formation, Your lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Stop fighting and accept your fate as my slaves." The dwarves ignored him completely and kept struggling against the chains. His amusement turned to irritation. "Fine. If you won't cooperate, I'll just kill a few of the disobedient ones." He waved his hand. The surrounding black-robed fighters drew their weapons and rushed at the trapped dwarves. Bound by the chains, the dwarves couldn't fight back properly. Several were soon bleeding from fresh wounds. The dwarf leader fought off 4 attackers at once without losing ground. But then the black-robed leader pulled out a black dagger and went after him personally. The black-robed leader was clearly powerful, way beyond anything I could measure at my level. All I could do was cling to that tree and worry. With the leader joining the fight, the dwarf chief started losing ground. His great axe swung slower and slower under the weight of those crimson chains. Then something incredible happened. The dwarf chief let out a massive war cry. Battle spirit. His muscles swelled, faint red flames erupted around his body, and the chains loosened just enough. He unleashed some kind of special combat technique and sent all 5 attackers flying. Even the black-robed leader coughed up blood. I nearly cheered out loud. It was the most intense fight I'd ever seen. The dwarf chief had activated some kind of racial battle talent, and his power jumped to a completely different level. Watching him made me burn even harder to get stronger myself. He turned to help his fellow warriors, cutting down black-robed fighters left and right. But when he saw how many of his dwarves were wounded and bleeding, his fury exploded. He locked eyes on the injured black-robed leader, roared, and charged with his axe raised high, ready to split the man in half. The black-robed leader panicked. He'd underestimated this dwarf badly. A vicious light flashed in his eyes. He grabbed 2 of his own wounded subordinates and plunged his hands into their chests, crushing their hearts. "Blood sacrifice, ghost bind," he screamed. The formation flared with blinding red light. The chains around the dwarf chief snapped tight again, even worse than before. New chains wrapped around his axe, freezing it in midair. He strained with everything he had, but couldn't move an inch. His short body was completely wrapped in crimson chains. The other dwarves tried to reach their leader, but the remaining black-robed fighters held them back desperately. The black-robed leader stood up, dusted himself off, and strolled right up to the trapped dwarf chief. "You dared resist me? You really thought I couldn't handle you? Once I plant my seal on you, you'll be my strongest slave. Don't worry, I'll capture more of your kind to keep you company. Being slaves for our great organization, the Blood Dawn, should be an honor for you little runts." My blood ran cold. What did they want with so many dwarves? And this organization, Blood Dawn, I'd never heard of it. But watching their leader sacrifice his own men to power the formation told me everything I needed to know. These people were evil. The dwarf chief shook with rage and humiliation. He threw every ounce of strength into bringing his axe down, but the chains held it perfectly still. The black-robed leader laughed in his face. He walked right up, close enough that the frozen axe blade was barely a fist's width from his head. He looked up at the dwarf chief with a mocking grin. "Go ahead, swing it. Can you? Be a good slave, little runt." He reached up to pat the dwarf's furious face, and the chains vanished. Every single red chain flickered once and disappeared. The axe, already loaded with the dwarf chief's full strength, came crashing down. It split the completely unguarded black-robed leader from his left shoulder straight through his body. Everyone, dwarves and black-robed fighters alike, froze and stared. The dwarf chief stumbled forward, confused. He had no idea what just happened. Only the dying black-robed leader understood. With what little life he had left, he slowly turned his head. Behind him, standing by a large tree, was a figure with one arm covering his face and the other hand holding a small black flag, the formation he'd planted the night before. He tried to speak, but blood poured from his mouth. His eyes stayed wide open as the life drained out of them, desperate to see who had killed him. Without the chains, the dwarves erupted. Their fighting power was terrifying when they were free to move. The black-robed fighters, leaderless and panicking, scattered, but the dwarves chased them down. It turned into a one-sided slaughter. I stood behind that tree, arms still blocking my face, clutching the little flag, watching the battlefield nervously. I was terrified that some black-robed fighter might break away and come after me. Thankfully, the battle ended quickly. Every single black-robed fighter was dead. The only sounds left were the dwarves' heavy breathing. I let out a quiet breath of relief. I didn't want any more trouble. Keeping my arm over my face, I started slowly backing away from the battlefield. "Stop!" the dwarf chief shouted. Then he came charging straight at me. I just watched this dwarf split a man in two. The only difference now was that he wasn't holding his axe. That didn't make his charge any less terrifying. My hands went ice cold and a chill ran down my spine. He stopped right in front of me and studied me. This kid with his arms still awkwardly covering his face, holding a little black flag. He seemed to be putting things together. I looked down at him, suddenly worried that this not very tall warrior might misunderstand the situation. I blurted out, "I'm not an enemy. I just helped you." Then I told him everything. How I'd arrived the night before, gotten stuck in the tree, watched the black-robed people set up the formation, memorized where the formation I was planted, and waited all night without daring to move. The dwarves gathered around me as I spoke. When I finished, the dwarf chief first let his red flames die out. The moment they disappeared, he looked visibly drained. He reached into his storage space, pulled out a massive barrel of wine, popped the lid, and started chugging. Dark red liquor dripped from his beard onto the ground. The smell was intense, pure, concentrated alcohol. Grandpa was right about dwarves and their drinking. I still don't know what made me step into that fight. Maybe it was just I couldn't stand watching good people get hurt. All I'd actually done was pull out a flag. I'd kept my arm over my face the whole time because if any black-robed fighters survived and saw me, they might come looking for revenge later. After the dwarf chief drained most of the barrel, his energy seemed to bounce right back. He noticed I was still standing there with my arm across my face and burst out laughing. Then he grabbed me, pulled me in, and wrapped me in a huge bear hug. His thick arm slammed against my back twice as he said with total sincerity, "Thank you, my friend." The hug nearly broke me. Those two, friendly, pats on my back hurt worse than most of the beatings I'd taken in my life. I couldn't even speak for a moment, just stood there with my teeth clenched and tears in my eyes. The dwarves around us roared with laughter at my expression. The chief noticed how weak I was and scratched his head sheepishly. "Sorry about that. My friend, my name is Casa. What's yours?" He held out his wine barrel toward me. I leaned against the tree, catching my breath, and a strange thought popped into my head. Father really does love me. All those years of beatings, and he never once hit me as hard as this dwarf's friendly pat. I shook that thought away, looked at the warm, eager faces of the dwarf warriors surrounding me, and smiled. "My name is Asura. I'm from the kingdom of Olay." I took the barrel. It was heavy, and copied what I'd seen Casa do. I tilted it back and took a big gulp. What I didn't know was that among dwarves, sharing your drink with someone is the highest sign of true friendship. And what I really didn't know was that the wine Casa gave me was the dwarves' legendary war god wine, a liquor that burns like lava going down and has very special effects. Growing up, I used to steal grandpa's and father's wine all the time, so I'd built up a decent tolerance. But nothing prepared me for dwarf liquor. One gulp and my face turned bright red, my whole body flushed hot. My blood surged through me like a river breaking through a dam. And just like that, I smashed through to Warrior 3rd stage. I couldn't believe it. One sip of wine, and I'd hit the exact level needed for St. Gobain Academy's entrance exam. I'd been stressing about how I'd train while spending all my time traveling, and the problem just solved itself. I was so happy I grabbed the barrel and took another huge gulp. I nearly fell over. My blood was pumping and my body felt incredible, but there was no second breakthrough. The magic only worked that well on the first sip. The dwarves roared with laughter watching me stumble around drunk. Casa grinned at me and explained, "My friend, that's our war god wine, the finest drink in the world. It boosts your blood energy, heals injuries, restores stamina, clears bad conditions, raises fighting spirit, and improves bedroom performance." He just kept going. I waved my hands to cut him off before he got any more detailed. "I'm 14 years old. I'm curious about girls, sure, but I'm not about to discuss that in public." I bowed deeply to the dwarves. "Thank you for sharing your wine. I've never tasted anything so good, and it helped me break through a stage. I'm truly grateful." The dwarves lit up like lanterns when I praised their wine. Complimenting their alcohol made them happier than complimenting their fighting skills. Casa grabbed my arm excitedly. Come back to our tribe. You're our friend now. I'll introduce you to everyone. All the meat and wine you can handle." He started dragging me toward the wagons with a grip like iron pliers. "I can't," I said quickly. "I really want to visit your tribe, but I have something urgent. I need to get to St. Gobain Academy, and it's incredibly far. I have less than 3 months left, and I don't even know if I'll make it. I can't afford any delays." Casa stopped and looked at me. He could see I was serious. All right then. St. Gobain City is still very far from here, and there's something you need to know. The countries of Byron and Yeti up ahead are at war. The roads are blocked. You'll have to go around. Time really is tight. My stomach dropped. Thank God I met these dwarves. If I'd blundered straight into a war zone, I could have been trapped for weeks. Maybe this was the universe rewarding me for helping them. I steadied myself and asked, Casa, do you know who those black-robed people are? Why were they attacking you? Casa walked over to the dead leader's body and pulled back his hood. Underneath was a pale, bald man. He searched the body and found a storage belt. The seal fades when the owner dies, so anyone can open it. Inside were some coins, pills, spare clothes, and one thing that actually mattered, a leather map. When Casa unrolled it, his face darkened with fury. I don't know who they are, he growled. They attacked our tribe recently. When they couldn't beat us head-on, they blockaded us. Our supply parties kept getting ambushed. Many of our people went missing. I led this group out personally, and without your help, we'd probably be gone too. He jabbed a thick finger at the map. These marks show the locations of several dwarf tribes. That means other tribes are being targeted too. A goblin tribe nearby was also attacked. I need to get back and report all of this to our chief. I noticed something else, a tattoo on the dead leader's body. A black sun and moon. Just looking at it made my skin crawl. During the fight, I heard him say something about bringing you to an organization called Blood Dawn to forge weapons. I told Casa. Have you ever heard of them? He shook his big bearded head. Never. We dwarves keep to ourselves. We only go out to buy supplies. We've never picked a fight with any organization. If they want war with us, they'd better be ready for our axes. He swung his giant axe for emphasis. I swallowed nervously, eyeing the blade. The last person that axe touched was still lying on the ground in 2 pieces. The other dwarves piled up loot from the dead black-robed fighters. Nothing too valuable. Casa waved his hand. Take whatever you want. I just need the map. I picked out some healing pills and put them in my storage belt. I left all the gold and silver coins untouched. The dwarves needed money to buy supplies, and it would mean more to them than to me. Casa noticed that. His opinion of me went up another notch. After a moment of visible internal pain, he reached into his storage and pulled out 2 barrels of War God wine. My friend, since you need to hurry, I won't keep you. Take these for the road. Next time you're nearby, come visit our tribe in the caves of Failing Mountain. We'll drink properly. My eyes lit up. I stashed those barrels in my belt fast, grinning the whole time. Absolutely. When the academy gives me a break, I'll come find you. And please be careful of that Blood Dawn organization. Maybe you should gather all the nearby tribes together to fight them as one. Cass's eyes widened. He clearly thought that was a brilliant idea. Dwarves are great fighters, but human brains work a little differently. I hugged every dwarf goodbye. Their friendship was rough and simple and completely real, then waved and jogged back toward my campsite. On the way, I pulled the little black flag out from my shirt. It was the formation I'd yanked out of the ground. Something about it made me deeply uncomfortable. Without thinking too hard about it, I tossed it into the river. It bobbed along the current and floated away. When I got back to camp, Black Coal was standing there peacefully munching grass without a care in the world. I was furious. I'd been gone nearly a full day and night, clinging to a tree, risking my life. And this horse hadn't even bothered to look for me. He was probably dreaming about me never coming back so he could run free. The moment he spotted me walking toward him with that smile, all 5 of his legs, for plus the one I'd threatened, trembled. He galloped over and started nuzzling my arm like a loyal puppy. I wanted to teach him a lesson, but I'd already lost a whole day. I grunted, swung onto his back, and we took off at full speed towards St. Gobain. What I didn't know was that 3 days after I left, 2 black-robed figures found my little flag washed up on a riverbank downstream. One of them held the dripping flag and rasped, "This is the formation flag I lent to Envoy Nilo. If it's here, he failed." He paused. "Who destroyed our plan? If the one who took this flag had kept it, the soul imprint I placed on it would have led me to them eventually. But they threw it away. That means we're dealing with either a very powerful warrior or a formation master," the other one said. "If someone that's strong is watching us, we've been compromised. Order everyone in this region to cease operations and go into hiding until we receive further instructions." They vanished. The powerful expert they were so worried about was a 14-year-old boy currently galloping across the countryside on a grumpy black horse. Throwing away that flag on a whim saved me from enormous trouble I never even knew was coming. but it also meant I'd brushed against the edges of something much bigger and much darker than I could imagine. I rode through the night. It was dangerous, dodging tree branches in the dark at full gallop, but I had no choice. This was already the second day of the Academy's 3-day entrance exam. If I didn't reach St. Gobain City by tomorrow, everything would be for nothing. Black Coal could feel my desperation. For once, he didn't give me attitude and ran with everything he had. When the sky finally turned pale with dawn, I saw it. A massive city built against the side of a mountain. St. Gobain City. The Academy was inside those walls. I stood up on Black Coal's back and let out a long, loud shout into the morning air. Months of pressure lifted off my chest. People on the road stared at me like I was some country bumpkin seeing a city for the first time. I didn't care, but my upbringing kicked in quickly and I sat back down properly. St. Gobain City was a free city. All races, all classes, living together. Young Academy students walked everywhere. These were the continent's elite. When they graduated, they'd walk out as powerful warriors and mages. Let me explain how the world works. There are 4 great empires on the King's continent: Valency, Pagadan, Sinbai, and Galanan. They're roughly equal in power, and their territories form a ring around the most dangerous place in the world, the Magic Beast Forest. Even the strongest fighters don't dare go deep inside. High-level beasts and endless beast tides will tear anything apart. Beyond the empires is the endless sea. Nobody knows what's on the other side. Each empire has 2 famous academies, 8 total. They're all built at key passes leading into the Beast Forest, serving as humanity's shield against beast tides. Graduates are respected by common people and recruited heavily by every major faction. Augustus Academy was closer to home, but the Blackwater family forced me here to St. Gobain instead, clear across the Valency Empire. The city was buzzing with excitement because of the once-every-3 years enrollment. I didn't even need to ask directions. I just followed the crowd flowing uphill toward the academy. The exam site was packed with spectators. Local residents watching for fun. Spies from various factions scouting fresh talent. Even noble daughters looking for future husbands. Marrying an academy student was considered a great match, even as a secondary wife. And students needed noble families' resources too, so it worked both ways. I squeezed through the crowd with Black Coal and finally reached the exam area. There weren't many applicants left. Most had already tested in the first 2 days. I was shaking with excitement. I smoothed down my messy hair and walked up to the examination table. 3 examiners sat behind a long stone desk, 2 young ones and an older man in the middle, all wearing instructor uniforms, all stone-faced and businesslike. I filled out a simple form with my name and hometown, took a deep breath, and handed it to the young male examiner at the warrior testing station. He glanced at my form, looked me over, and said flatly, "Applicant, grip the blood chi testing stone. Channel your energy so we can measure your martial level." I grabbed the red stone on his desk and pushed my energy into it. It glowed red, warm and bright. Result: Warrior 3rd stage, he said in the same flat tone. My heart soared. 3rd stage, that was the minimum requirement. I'd made it. But then I heard the crowd behind me. Whispers. Snickering. Some people were laughing at me. Before I could figure out why, the examiner continued. Result invalid. You cannot be admitted. Please leave. Those words hit me like a thunderbolt. The laughter behind me got louder. I couldn't believe what I'd just heard. Why? I demanded. The standard for all 8 academies is Warrior 3rd stage or Mage 3rd stage. I meet the requirement. Why won't you let me in? The examiner had clearly expected this reaction. He answered calmly. Because all Warrior 3rd stage spots are filled. The Academy accepts approximately 2,000 students every 3 years, 1,600 warriors at 3rd stage or above, 300 mages at 3rd stage or above, and 100 students in special categories. That's the maximum we can provide resources for. His voice turned sharp. All 2,000 spots were filled yesterday. The path of the strong is for those who are prepared and arrive on time. You were careless enough to show up on the last day. Did you even take this opportunity seriously? Go home. Try a lesser academy. He didn't know what I'd been through. He didn't know about the months of travel, the bandits, the detours around a war zone, the sleepless nights. I wasn't going to explain myself to him, but I forced down my frustration and asked, if enrollment is full, why are you still sitting here? He raised an eyebrow. Apparently, most rejected students either threw tantrums or burst into tears. The fact that I was still thinking clearly surprised him. Because we still have spots for genius-level applicants, he said with a hint of smugness. If you were at Warrior Master level right now, you could still get in. But you're not. So leave. Don't hold up other applicants. I turned around and walked away, my mind a complete mess. What was I supposed to do? I couldn't just go home. I was my family's only hope. But what could I do now? People swarmed around me instantly, representatives from various factions, recruiters from smaller academies, all shoving invitations in my face, trying to get me to join them. The noble daughters mostly kept their distance, probably because I was young and dressed like a peasant. The noise made my head spin even worse. Then a luxurious silver-white carriage, flanked by guards, pushed through the crowd and pulled up right in front of the examination area. The carriage was incredible, pure silver-white, pulled by 4 snow-white horses that made Black Coal look like a barn mule. The carriage bore a family crest with lightning bolts and a scepter. I didn't recognize the family, but the guard driving it gave off a feeling of extreme danger. Whatever family needed a fighter that strong just to drive their carriage was not to be messed with. The moment that carriage appeared, every single person who'd been crowding around me trying to recruit me abandoned me instantly and rushed over to watch. I clicked my tongue in annoyance, but I watched too. Part of me wanted to see if this rich kid would also get rejected for showing up late. The guard opened the door, and out stepped a girl with silver hair. She was my age, maybe a little older, and already stunning. Porcelain skin, perfect features, wearing a fitted silver dress that matched her hair. She carried herself with this cold, untouchable elegance that made everyone around her feel small just by standing there. I'd never seen anyone that beautiful in my life, but my head was too full of panic about getting into the academy to stare for long. The 3 examiners didn't fawn over her, though I noticed the young male examiner's eyes went wide and he straightened up in his seat just slightly. She greeted the examiners with a small bow, filled out her form, and walked to the young female examiner at the mage testing station. The female examiner glanced at the form, and her eyes widened briefly before she composed herself. Applicant, grip the magic testing stone. Channel your magic power so we can determine your element and level. The silver-haired girl nodded, didn't even pause to prepare, and grabbed the white stone. It erupted with brilliant silver light. Gasps exploded from the crowd behind me. The female examiner's jaw nearly dropped. Lightning element mage. Mage first stage. The crowd went wild. People started speculating about her age, her family, her future potential. But the girl didn't react at all. She stood there with that same cool expression, like she'd heard it all 1,000 times before. Examiner, have I passed? She asked quietly. The female examiner was still stunned. The older examiner in the middle coughed gently, snapping her back to attention. She flushed slightly, then put on a warm smile. Of course you've passed. You're a rare lightning element mage. That alone qualifies you for admission. And you've reached mage first stage on top of that. You're a genius level student. Student Clara, welcome to St. Goban Academy. The crowd erupted in cheers. Everyone wanted to say they witnessed a genius enter the academy today. The girl, Clara, finally let a smile break through. She was still a teenage girl, after all. She'd apparently arrived late because she'd been busy breaking through to mage first stage. Hearing the examiner's approval clearly made her happy. She reached out to accept the academy badge from the examiner. Wait, I shouted. Every head turned toward me. Is it true that any lightning element mage gets a genius student spot? That they get admitted regardless of regular enrollment limits? That's what you just said. The crowd stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Wasn't I the kid who just got rejected from the warrior exam? What was I doing asking about mage enrollment? Had the rejection broken my brain? I ignored all of them. My eyes were locked on the female examiner. Clara turned to look at me too. I could tell her first thought was that I was some boy trying to get her attention. Apparently that happened to her a lot. But when she noticed my gaze went straight past her to the examiner without stopping on her for even a second, she realized she'd been wrong. She seemed relieved. And then, strangely, just a tiny bit annoyed. Girls are confusing. The female examiner frowned at being interrupted. Having lightning element doesn't automatically make you a genius student. But because lightning mages are extremely rare, the academy has a standing rule that any lightning element mage can be admitted through an extra enrollment slot. The moment those words left her mouth, something clicked inside me. I felt my eyes light up. You're sure? I pressed. Any lightning element mage applicant can get in? I'm sure, she snapped impatiently. I don't make the academy's rules. She could tell something felt off about this exchange, but she couldn't put her finger on what. Before she could figure it out, I was already moving. I rushed forward, scribbled out a new application form, slapped it down on her desk, grabbed the white magic testing stone with both hands, and yelled at the top of my lungs, "Light up!" Under my desperate shout and the bewildered stares of everyone present, the stone in my hands began to glow, a faint, flickering, silver light. Everyone froze. They stared at the faint silver glow coming from the stone in my hands like they'd just seen a ghost. Inside, I was panicking. I barely had any lightning magic in my body. I'd only done a handful of meditations in my entire life and never actually trained. The glow was weak, flickering like a candle about to die. My forehead was dripping with sweat. Come on, come on. We had a deal. Just announce the result already. What nobody noticed was that underneath the silver glow, there was a faint gray light flickering in and out. But that stayed hidden. Finally, the female examiner's voice broke the silence, stuttering, "Lightning element. Level. Magic apprentice. First stage." I let go of that stone so fast. I locked eyes with the female examiner, breathing hard, sweat pouring down my face. Everyone's brain was short-circuiting. Why would a warrior have magic talent? And lightning magic of all things, one of the rarest types? Why would someone with lightning talent waste time training as a mediocre warrior instead of becoming a mage? Clara was staring at me too, mouth slightly open. She couldn't figure me out either. When she'd awakened her lightning talent, her whole family had thrown a massive celebration. Her grandfather had named her the top priority among the younger generation. And here I was, apparently sitting on the same rare talent and doing nothing with it. The examiner was still staring at me silently. I couldn't take it anymore. "Dear examiner, aren't you supposed to give me my badge now?" She snapped out of it and frowned. "You are technically a lightning mage, but your level." I cut her off immediately. "That's not what you said a minute ago. Everyone heard you. You said the Academy's rule is that any rare lightning element mage can be admitted. You're not going to bully me because I'm young and go back on your word, are you?" I turned to the crowd. The murmuring grew louder. The examiner looked flustered and turned helplessly to the other two examiners. The older male examiner in the middle shot me an annoyed look. He could see exactly what I'd done. I'd set the trap for his colleague from the very first question and then whipped up the crowd to pressure them. A kid with a head full of schemes. But he also knew he needed to end this circus. The three of them huddled together, whispered for a moment, then reached a decision. The older examiner smiled at me, a smile I didn't entirely trust. "Since you are indeed a lightning element mage, and you're so eager to study here, we see no reason to violate the Academy's enrollment principles. Congratulations, you've passed. Student Asura, welcome to St. Goban Academy." I jumped in the air. I actually jumped. I'd done it. After everything, the months of travel, the bandits, the war zone detour, riding through the night, I was in. But that meaningful smile on the older examiner's face made me uneasy. Something told me there'd be a price for this later. I took the Academy badge with both hands and stared at it, grinning like a fool. Nearby, Clara had watched the whole thing unfold. I could feel her eyes on me. She was probably thinking that if she'd been in my position, she wouldn't have been able to pull that off, because she wouldn't have had the nerve to be that shameless. The older examiner's voice pulled us both back. "Guard your badges well. They function as scorecards, trading tools, and messaging devices. They prove you're a member of this academy. Do not lose them. You may now enter. Your badges will guide you from here. Good luck." We both bowed. "Yes, sir." Clara walked straight toward the academy gates without looking back. I went the other direction to untie Blackhole from his post, then led him through the gates too. Inside, the place was breathtaking. Enormous ancient trees, classic stone buildings, students in warrior uniforms, and mage robes walking everywhere. Everyone wore academy clothing, except newcomers like me, still in our travel-worn clothes. Up ahead I noticed a commotion. A crowd of male upperclassmen had swarmed around Clara, all trying to flirt and asking for her badge contact number. She looked deeply irritated, her brows pinched tight. I glanced at the scene, shrugged, and turned the other way. But apparently she noticed me walking off, and that made her even more annoyed. Like I said, girls are confusing. I wandered through the campus, blown away by everything. Statues of legendary graduates lined every path, each with a plaque describing their heroic deeds. They'd gone on to become some of the greatest warriors and mages on the continent. Every statue made me more excited to get stronger. I didn't need a statue of my own. I just needed to become powerful enough to go home and save my family. I remembered Father's words. Until you're truly strong, stay low. Stay quiet. I'd grow in silence. And when I was ready, I'd go back for Big Brother's revenge. My badge buzzed with a message. New student Asura. Report to dormitory 138. You will have a private room inside. Store your belongings and send any mount to the academy stables. All new students must gather at War God Plaza by dusk. Anyone late or absent will be expelled immediately. I took Black Coal to the stables first. The moment he saw a few mares inside, his hooves started prancing with excitement. I stared at him with a dark expression, then reminded myself I'd paid 10 gold coins for this horse and slowly unclenched my fists. The campus was enormous. I spent half the day walking and still hadn't covered half of it. The dormitories were rows of small 2-story buildings, boys on one side of the road, girls on the other. I found building 138, pressed my badge into the slot on the door, and it clicked open. Downstairs was a simple common area with a table. Upstairs had 4 bedrooms, 3 already taken. I called out, "Anyone home?" Twice. No answer. My roommates had probably already headed to the plaza. My room was bare, a wardrobe, a desk, a chair, a single bed. Nothing else. I didn't have much to unpack anyway. I shut the door and ran toward War God Plaza. I couldn't be late on my first day. I ran to War God Plaza, asking directions the whole way. By the time I arrived, a huge crowd of new students had already gathered. Nobody really knew each other yet. Some guys from the same dorm had formed little groups, whispering and snickering about which girls they'd spotted. Typical. I was looking around at everyone when my eyes met a pair of cold, familiar ones. Clara, the silver-haired girl from the exam. Finally, someone I sort of knew. I grinned and waved at her. She went, humph, turned her head, and looked the other way. My hand hung in the air awkwardly. I scratched my nose and looked somewhere else too. Then a bell rang, and 2 figures flew down from the sky and hovered above the plaza. One warrior, one mage, both instructors. The new students went absolutely crazy, screaming, pointing, cheering. I was just as amazed. I had no idea what level you needed to reach to fly, but I was dead certain the Blackwater family didn't have anyone who could do it. I started daydreaming about flying back to Olay someday. Silence. A voice cut through, not loud, but somehow it sounded right next to everyone's ear at the same time. The plaza went dead quiet instantly. The big, muscular man stepped forward. "Hello, newcomers. I'm Filman, Dean of the Warrior Academy. This is Saining, Dean of the Magic Academy." The elegant mage beside him tipped his hat in greeting. Filman continued, "Welcome to St. Goban Academy. Now let me explain the rules and how things work here. First, it doesn't matter where you come from, what family backs you, or how much power they have. Inside these walls, you're on your own. Try to use your family's influence here, and you'll be expelled." Some of the richly dressed students shifted uncomfortably. Others didn't seem to care. Second, all training resources must be earned. Gold, silver, jewels, worthless here. The only currency that matters is academy points. You earn them through rankings and completing academy missions. You can also trade them privately between students. Students from humble backgrounds perked up at this. The wealthy ones frowned. The academy had just leveled the playing field. Third, there aren't many strict rules. You're free to plan your own time. Attend whichever instructor's classes you want, or don't attend any and train on your own. The academy won't interfere. However, you have a maximum of 9 years. Graduate by reaching Grand Warrior 3rd stage or Grand Mage 3rd stage within that time, and you receive a diploma. Fail to meet the requirement in 9 years, and not only do you leave without a diploma, your children and grandchildren will be barred from every academy. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, but most of us were confident. Everyone here was talented enough to pass the entrance exam. Surely we could handle graduation. The 2 deans exchanged satisfied looks. Then Filman added one more thing. The details are in your badge messages. But remember this, fighting in unauthorized areas of campus is strictly forbidden. Violators will be severely punished. Everyone nodded. Fair enough. Put a couple thousand young hotshots together, and fights were bound to happen without rules like that. Then Dean Saining stepped forward with a gentle smile. Tomorrow you'll be assigned to classes based on your profiles. Your badge will tell you where to report. You'll also receive your uniforms. No other clothing is permitted on campus. His voice was warm and pleasant. But what he said next made everyone's blood run cold. 3 months from now, there will be an evaluation. Almost all of you are currently at Warrior 3rd stage or Mage 3rd stage. In 3 months, every combat student must break through to the Warrior Master or Mage level. You'll be tested as a class, and you must demonstrate a lethal damage technique on a practice dummy. Anyone who doesn't reach the required level, or whose attack is too weak, will be eliminated from the academy. The plaza erupted in nervous chatter. We'd all thought getting in was the hard part. Turns out, that was just the beginning. Saining looked pleased by our panic. Don't be surprised. There will be many evaluations and missions throughout your time here. Fail any of them and you're out. You'll get used to it. Historically, our graduation rate is around 50%. He paused. And our accidental death rate is just under 30%. So do your best. The plaza went completely silent. 50% graduation rate. Nobody had mentioned that before. Then again, the ones who didn't graduate probably weren't eager to broadcast their failure. And nearly 30% death rate. People die here? What kind of school was this? While we were all still stunned, Saining's expression turned serious. Cultivation has always been a journey against the current. If you don't fight for it, you'll be nothing but dust on this vast continent. But if you push through, surpass everyone around you, and become truly powerful, then you'll be the brightest star in the night sky. Your future is in your own hands. What kind of person you become, that's what your time here is for. Find your answer. Good luck. Dismissed. Both deans turned and flew away, vanishing into the sky. But their words echoed in my head for a long, long time. I left the plaza late. The dean's words kept echoing in my head. Seeing people actually fly through the air had shaken me to my core. I wanted that kind of power more than anything. When I got back to the dorm and opened the door, 3 guys were sitting in the common room. They all turned and stared at me at the same time. Before I could say anything, a well-dressed boy with a natural charm stood up and smiled. "You must be our missing 4th roommate. I heard everyone who arrived on the last day got in through the genius student quota." The other 2 immediately sized me up with more interest. My face went red. No, I just got lucky, that's all. They clearly thought I was being modest. The well-dressed boy laughed it off. "We're going to be living under the same roof for 9 years. No need to be humble. Let's introduce ourselves. I'm Jinza, Water Element Mage 3rd Stage." He looked toward a blonde boy sitting in one of the chairs. The blonde kid had simple clothes, but carried himself like someone from a powerful family. Every small movement had an elegance to it. He gave me a small nod. "I'm Arthur. Warrior Master 1st Stage." I nearly choked. Warrior Master. That was already at the level of the 3-month evaluation standard. The talent in this place was no joke. The last one stood up, a shy boy with messy bird's nest hair. "I'm Angelo. You can call me Lolo. I'm studying weapons and equipment forging, right? The academy took 100 students in non-combat specialties. Lolo must be one of those." All 3 looked at me expectantly. "I'm Asura. Warrior 3rd Stage." The room went quiet. 3 pairs of suspicious eyes stared at me. They were obviously thinking, Warrior 3rd Stage, and he got in through the genius quota? Something doesn't add up. I was about to explain the whole exam fiasco, but Jinze smoothly changed the subject. "Great. How old are you?" Turns out we were all born the same year, just different months. By age, Jinza was the oldest, Arthur 2nd, me 3rd, and Lolo 4th. After that we ran out of things to talk about pretty fast. We sat there in awkward silence, staring at each other, until Arthur finally said, "I'm going to rest," and broke the spell. We all retreated to our rooms with relief. When I saw my bed, a plain, narrow single bed, I felt a wave of emotion that almost knocked me over. 6 months of sleeping on the ground in forests and beside rivers. This was the first real bed since I'd left home. Lying there, I suddenly wanted to cry, but I held it back. Tears wouldn't help me. I was on my own now. And in just one day, I'd already met 2 students a full tier above me. The pressure was real. I fell asleep thinking about all of it. The next morning, I was up early. Months of travel had made that a habit. My badge had a message telling me to report to classroom 13 in a specific building. Downstairs, Jinza and Arthur were eating simple breakfasts. The academy had a free cafeteria, but most students just grabbed food and kept it in their bags or storage spaces so they could eat whenever and spend more time training. Jinza guessed I hadn't had time to stock up and handed me a roasted meat sandwich with a smile. I thanked him and wolfed it down. Lolo was still asleep. His program probably had a different schedule. We said quick goodbyes and headed to our separate classrooms. I was walking along in my warrior outfit, wondering what classes would be like, when I reached my assigned building and felt something very wrong. Every student going in and out, new and old, was wearing mage robes. I was the only one in warrior clothes, standing there like an idiot at the entrance. A terrible realization hit me. They'd assigned me to the Magic Academy. I'd never trained in magic. I was Magic Apprentice first stage. This was a disaster. Then I remembered the older examiner's knowing smile when he handed me my badge. That smug, meaningful look suddenly made perfect sense. He'd done this on purpose. I'd used the lightning mage loophole to get in? Fine, then I'd be treated as a mage student. I silently swore that someday I would pull out every hair of that man's beard. But what could I do now? I gritted my teeth and walked inside. When I stepped into classroom 13, the room went silent. 8 or 9 students who'd arrived early stared at the black-haired kid in warrior clothes like he'd walked into the wrong building, which, honestly, was a fair reaction. I ignored their looks, walked to the back row by the window, and sat down. A chubby boy sitting in front of me turned around. "Hey, are you in the wrong room? There are no warrior classes in this entire building. Trust me," I said with a sigh. I wish I was in the wrong room. But this is where my badge told me to go. He had no idea what to make of that. The others decided I was just weird and went back to chatting amongst themselves. Then the classroom door opened and a silver-haired girl walked in with light, graceful steps. If my appearance had confused everyone, hers hypnotized them. The whole room went still again. A thin boy in expensive mage robes instantly flashed a dazzling smile and pulled out the empty chair next to him. "My beautiful lady, please, sit here." He made an elaborate gentlemanly gesture. She didn't even glance at him. Walked right past like he was furniture. His smile froze on his face. Luckily, everyone was still watching her, and nobody noticed his humiliation. I recognized her immediately, Clara. Of course she'd be in my class. We were both lightning mages. Made sense. She spotted me too. Hard to miss me. The only person in warrior clothes in a room full of mage robes. Even sitting in the back corner, I stuck out like a sore thumb. She seemed surprised for a second. Then I saw the corner of her mouth twitch upward. She was probably remembering my performance at the exam. That tiny smile nearly killed the chubby boy in front of me. I could practically hear his brain screaming. The goddess smiled at me. Then she walked toward him. Well, toward my section, and his heart probably stopped. She sat down diagonally behind him, one seat to my right, separated from me by just a narrow aisle. The chubby boy was frozen solid, thinking, why did she sit there? Is it so she can always see me? Should I fix my hair? Does my profile look good from that angle? Clara settled in, looked around the room briefly, then tilted her head and just stared at me. Didn't say a word, just stared. I had no idea what to do with that. Yesterday, she wouldn't even acknowledge my wave. Today she was staring at me like I was a puzzle. Fine, be the bigger person. Say hello. I forced an awkward smile, half raised my hand, put it back down, and managed. Long time no see. She burst out laughing. Idiot, she said, smiling the sweetest smile I'd ever seen. When Clara called me an idiot, my face went dark. I turned away and swore to myself I'd never talk to this girl again. She seemed to find that even more amusing. I guess all the boys she'd ever known were polite and charming, showing off like peacocks. A blunt, awkward guy like me was something new to her. That's probably why she'd sat next to me. Pure curiosity. Nobody heard what she'd said to me. They just saw her covering her mouth and giggling in my direction and assumed she was laughing at my clothes like everyone else. A few guys quietly shuffled to seats closer to the back, trying to get near her. The other girls just rolled their eyes. Nobody wanted to compete with that face. Then a bell chimed, and our homeroom teacher walked in. She was stunning. Just as beautiful as Clara, but in a completely different way, more mature, with an alluring confidence. Her purple mage robes hugged a figure that made every guy in the room forget how to breathe. If Clara was a cold winter moon, this woman was a summer sunset. Hello, Magic Class 13. I'm Ayla, your homeroom teacher. I'll be guiding your class from now on. Any questions about magic training, come find me. I hope we'll get along well. The guys were beside themselves. 2 goddesses in one tiny classroom. Coming to St. Gobain was the best decision ever. Ayla had just graduated from this very academy as a top student. Her grandfather, Professor Iway, was a legendary magic instructor who'd reached the terrifying level of Grand Magic Guide. Ayla herself was at Magic Guide 2nd stage, more than qualified to lead a freshman class. Apparently, a bunch of male graduates had stayed on as instructors just to keep pursuing her. None had succeeded so far. This was her first time as a homeroom teacher, and she was a little nervous. The academy had given her class 13 because it was the smallest, only 14 students, all lightning mages, 7 boys and 7 girls. Lightning mages were that rare. That's exactly why the academy had the special admission rule for us. What I didn't know was that Ayla had been excited about getting an elite, easy-to-manage class until she saw the student roster. For students had already reached the mage level, which was better than any other class. But there was also one student listed as Magic Apprentice First Stage. She'd actually run to her friend, the female examiner from the entrance test, to ask if there was a mistake. When she heard the whole story of how I'd gotten in, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She wasn't worried about me dragging down class rankings. She was worried that in 3 months, I'd fail the evaluation and get expelled. She'd memorized my name and privately decided to give me extra attention and guidance so I wouldn't be eliminated. Otherwise, she'd be down to 13 students. Ayla blushed slightly at all the excited stares, then noticed something odd. The front rows were mostly empty, and everyone was crammed toward the back. When she spotted Clara sitting in the rear, it all made sense. Roll call. Stand when I call your name. She went through the list one by one, glancing up at each student. When she called Clara's name, the boys actually cheered. She smiled and moved on. Then she reached the last name on her list. Her expression turned serious. Asura, I stood up. Here, she stared at me, wheels turning visibly behind her eyes. So this is the one. How do I help him catch up? If I'm too obvious about it, will it hurt his pride? She was lost in thought so long that the whole class noticed their beautiful teacher gazing at me with this intense, almost tender look. The whispers started immediately. He's really in our class? Why is she staring at him like that? Is she attracted to him? He's not that much better looking than me. Even Clara's eyebrows furrowed slightly. I had no idea what was happening either. Is my handsome face that shocking? No way, right? I couldn't take the staring anymore. Teacher? Can I sit down? That snapped her out of it. Her cheeks flushed red. Yes, of course. The whole class's eyes bounced between us like watching a tennis match. A few girls looked like they'd just found the juiciest gossip of the year. Ayla recovered and continued. Starting today, classes officially begin. Course schedules are posted on the bulletin boards outside the main lecture halls. This room is our homeroom, but your classes may be held elsewhere. You're free to choose whichever courses and instructors you like. Our immediate goal is passing the 3-month evaluation. I hope everyone will work hard. I'll do everything I can to help you. She looked at me again when she said that last part. I pretended not to notice. Now let's choose class officers. Since we're small, we just need a class president and a study committee leader. These two will work together to help manage things. Anyone interested can stand and make their case. Silence. Nobody wanted a job that might cut into training time. Ayla smiled. Oh, I forgot to mention, class officers get bonus academy points. Suddenly everyone was raising their hands. After yesterday's speech about how points were the only currency that mattered here, those bonus points were gold. But then one voice cut through the noise, and the room went quiet before erupting into applause. Clara had volunteered for class president. Nobody objected. Nobody dared compete. Beauty conquers all. Ayla was pleased. Wonderful. Clara is our class president. Now, who wants to be study committee leader? Several boys were about to jump up when I felt Clara's eyes burning a hole in the side of my head. I glanced over and caught her glaring at me, a look that clearly said, "You volunteer now." I immediately looked out the window like I'd spotted something fascinating. No way. A magic apprentice first stage as study committee leader? The entire academy would laugh us out of existence. The position went to Kale, the thin boy who tried to offer Clara his seat earlier. He was a lightning mage first stage from a powerful family. Getting to work alongside Clara as a fellow class officer made him glow with happiness. He kept turning around to look at her with burning eyes. Clara sat there expressionless, but I had a strong feeling she was mentally striking me with lightning bolts. Finally, Ayla handed out our school uniforms, mage robes for everyone. She reminded us that from now on, only academy uniforms were permitted on campus. And just like that, the Magic Academy of St. Goban officially began. I put on my new school uniform, a dark green mage robe, and finally stopped looking like a complete outsider. Then came my first class. Teacher Ayla taught magic fundamentals, and she was brilliant at it. Being gorgeous didn't hurt either. Every student hung on her every word. Every student except me. I'd never studied magic. Not once. The only thing I knew was basic meditation, which I'd picked up by eavesdropping on Mom teaching my sister. I'd done it a handful of times out of curiosity, and that was it. Now I was sitting in an advanced magic class with students who'd been trained for years by their families, surrounded by resources I couldn't even dream of back home. I understood absolutely nothing. I might as well have been listening to a foreign language. Cold sweat ran down my neck the entire morning. Nobody noticed my panic except Clara, sitting one aisle over. She glanced at me a few times, but didn't say anything. For classes that morning, for different teachers, for different subjects, including 2 specifically on lightning magic. I focused as hard as I could, but it was hopeless. The gap between me and everyone else was years wide. Their families had money, training materials, personal tutors. I was the 3rd son of a small country general who'd never bothered learning any of this. If I couldn't close this gap in 3 months, the evaluation would end my academy life before it even started. I walked back to the dorm feeling completely defeated. When I pushed open the door, my 3 roommates were sitting in the common room drinking tea. They took one look at me, wearing a mage robe, and their brains short-circuited. Yesterday I told them I was a warrior 3rd stage. Now I was dressed as a mage. I didn't feel like explaining. I just waved and started heading for the stairs. But Jinza called out, "Hey, 3rd brother, I've got great tea here. Come sit with us, 3rd brother." I froze on the stairs. Back home, my brothers called me that. Hearing it here, from someone I'd known for one day, cracked something open inside me. I looked back at 3 smiling faces. I smiled too. Sure, I'm thirsty anyway. I sat down, crossed my legs, and drained my cup in one gulp. I couldn't tell good tea from bad. I just needed something to drink. Jinza winced and refilled my cup with what was apparently very expensive tea. Arthur sipped his quietly, savoring every drop like he knew exactly how rare it was. Lolo was practically bouncing in his seat, bursting with something he wanted to share. Jinza waited until I finished my 2nd cup, then asked casually, "What's wrong, 3rd brother? You look down. Did something happen? Or did you confess to a pretty girl and get rejected? If it's the first thing, maybe we can help. If it's the second, you're on your own." I looked at him gratefully. He hadn't asked about the mage robe. He'd given me an easy out. I could make up some excuse, and we'd all move on to joking around. But I didn't want an easy out. I don't know why. Maybe it was hearing 3rd brother again. Maybe I'd been holding everything in for too long. So I told them. Everything. My real level. Why I'd never learned magic. How I'd tricked my way through the entrance exam. How I'd been dumped into a mage class. And how I'd spent the entire morning drowning in lessons I couldn't understand. I left out the details about my family's troubles and my journey here, but I told them the rest honestly. They listened with their jaws hanging open. They hadn't expected the quiet new kid to have such a wild story. And they finally understood. I hadn't been humble or hiding my strength yesterday. I really had just been incredibly lucky and gutsy. They were smart. It didn't take them long to see how bad my situation was. But they didn't sit around feeling sorry for me. Jinza spoke first. 3rd brother, I'm a water mage, not lightning, so I can't help with element-specific stuff. But I can teach you magic fundamentals, the beginner knowledge you missed. And I'll give you a proper meditation technique so you can build up your magic reserves faster. I bowed my head and said a sincere thank you. He waved it off. We're brothers under the same roof. Of course. Arthur, still cool as always, thought for a moment. I don't know magic, but I have a cousin in the upper years, a top-ranked earth mage. I could ask him to tutor you. I thanked him, but said Jeans' teaching would be enough for now. I didn't want to trouble his cousin over a complete beginner. Then Lolo pulled something from his storage ring, a bracelet. 3rd brother, I can't help with magic either, but my family specializes in crafting magical equipment. I made this myself. When you cast a low-level spell while wearing it, the attack power increases by 20%. You'll need it for the 3-month test against those practice dummies. Only thing is, it's single-use. I'm not good enough to make a permanent one yet. He pushed the bracelet into my hands, scratching his messy hair shyly. I held the bracelet and looked at the 3 of them. 3 pairs of eyes full of encouragement. My vision blurred just slightly. I blinked it away fast. I memorized everything they'd done for me. Someday I'd pay it all back. Being honest with them had changed everything. The suspicion was gone. The awkwardness was gone. We were just 4 teenage boys who'd found real friends. And if my honesty built the friendship, what Lolo said next cemented it forever. His eyes started glowing as he shared his big news, the new student top 10 beauties ranking. How he'd gathered this information in a single morning was beyond me. He rattled off names, classes, and basic details with the enthusiasm of a war correspondent, noting that final rankings would require further, multidimensional scoring. I heard a familiar name, Clara. I clicked my tongue. Sure, the silver-haired girl was pretty, but something was clearly wrong with her brain. She'd call me an idiot. If I weren't almost certainly going to lose that fight, I'd flatten that perfect little nose of hers. Lolo wrapped up his report with obvious reluctance, then added with genuine sadness. There's also a girl in my non-combat program, an alchemy student named Tangua. She's beautiful enough for the top 10, easily, but she seems to be blind, so it hurt her image score. Couldn't make the list. Such a shame. After hearing the complete beauty report, the four of us turned as one and gazed out the window toward the girls' dormitories across the road. Dormitory 138 was absolutely buzzing with teenage hormones. The four of us talked about girls for way too long. I mentioned teacher Ayla, and Lolo said the line of guys who tried to court her could stretch from the academy to the beast forest. Apparently her grandfather, the Grand Magic Guide, kept a very close watch. Lolo, how do you even get all this information? I asked. He puffed up proudly. Me and my forging classmates gathered it all this morning. Exclusive, first-hand intel. I laughed. You know, you could sell this stuff. Not for money, for academy points. Sell it to all the lovesick idiots who can't stop thinking about pretty girls. You wouldn't even need to do missions. The words barely left my mouth before Jeans' expression changed. His eyes got brighter and brighter. He slapped my shoulder hard enough to sting and said, "Third brother, that's brilliant. Lolo, you keep collecting intel. I'll handle sales. We trade for academy points and split the profits." He jumped up, put one foot on his chair, and started laying out a business plan. Like some kind of merchant general. I rubbed my shoulder and stared at him, thinking, who are you and what did you do with the polite tea-drinking gentleman? Lolo immediately pledged his support with pure enthusiasm. He'd build the top 10 beauties ranking with proper data as fast as possible. Then Arthur, cool, quiet Arthur, suddenly looked worried. Wait, one of you collects info, one sells it, one came up with the idea. What about me? I want points too. What do I do? Lolo thought about it. Second brother, I've got the perfect job for you. This business could be a little dangerous. You're the strongest one here. When the girls' admirers come to beat us up, you charge in and protect us. A drop of sweat slid down Arthur's normally composed face. I'm not sure I can handle that. Jeansa clapped his shoulder. We believe in you. You've got this, second brother. And just like that, our little gossip trading organization was born. After dinner, Jeansa sat with me in the common room and spent over 3 hours teaching me magic fundamentals. He taught me exactly the way his family elders had taught him from the very beginning. Then he shared his own meditation technique, and even just hearing the method, I could tell it was leagues better than the basic one I'd been using. No big speeches needed. Our brotherhood grew deeper that day. That night, alone in my room, I replayed everything Jeansa had taught me. Suddenly, some of the morning's lectures started making sense too. I knew this gap couldn't be closed overnight, but I couldn't afford to slack off. I sat on my bed and began meditating with a new technique. Magic elements rushed into my body much faster than before. What I didn't know was that the meditation method Jeansa gave me was actually one of the best on the entire continent. Hours passed. Normally, when a mage's body reaches its storage limit, meditation ends automatically. But I kept going. For hours. 6 hours. 8 hours. My body kept absorbing magic like a bottomless pit. By the time dawn light crept across the sky, I finally came out of meditation. I was exhausted. My mental energy was completely drained. But my level had jumped from Magic Apprentice first stage to Magic Apprentice third stage. In one night. I didn't celebrate. Early levels are easy. The real difficulty multiplies later. What did worry me was how I'd been able to meditate all night without hitting a limit. Something about my body was strange. But I couldn't pinpoint what, and I decided to keep it to myself. Last thing I needed was to be dragged into some lab and dissected for research. I got up early, went to the cafeteria, and brought back 4 free breakfasts from the first floor. The second floor served special food, magic beast meat that boosted your energy, but that cost academy points. We ate together, chatted briefly, and headed to our separate classes. When I walked into classroom 13, it was much more crowded than yesterday. Students from other classes had come to sit in. I didn't think much of it until I reached my seat from yesterday, and an arm blocked my path. Kale, the study committee leader, the thin boy who tried to impress Clara with the chair trick. Find another seat, he said coolly. I'm sitting here now. I glanced at the expressionless silver-haired girl sitting one aisle over. immediately understood what was going on. I let my eyes roll upward innocently. Why should I? I sat here yesterday. My notes are still on this desk. You're the study committee leader. Go sit in the front where you belong. What are you doing back here? His face flushed with anger. I looked into you, black-haired kid. If you know what's good for you, move. Or I'll make you. He started reaching for a fancy magic scepter, probably a family heirloom. I smiled. Oh, can't take a seat so you're going to hit me? Go ahead. Do it. Right here on campus. Let's see if the academy expels you for attacking a fellow student. I even puffed out my chest and leaned closer. He had nothing. He couldn't actually hit me. He stood there sputtering. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Clara's lips curve upward ever so slightly. She was enjoying this. Just when everyone thought it was over, I said, "Look, the seat is mine. But since we're classmates, I suppose I could let you have it. For a price." His eyes lit up. "You'll give it to me? That's really, hold on. I didn't say free. A premium spot like this? 200 points. He froze. Every new student starts with 100 points. Kale had earned another 100 as a bonus for becoming study committee leader. I was asking for every single point he had. I saw him hesitating and sighed dramatically. I see. The seat isn't that important to you after all. Means less to you than 200 points. Well, never mind then. I'll ask around. Maybe someone else wants it. I started to sit down. His hand shot out and grabbed my arm. 200. Fine. Deal. Don't you dare change the price. I hopped up and whipped out my badge so fast you'd think I'd rehearsed it. Transaction complete. 300 points in my account. I was grinning so hard my face hurt. What I didn't see was the tiny sparks of electricity crackling at the tips of Clara's silver hair behind me. Kale rushed into the seat, flicked his bangs artfully, and stole a glance at his goddess with his best profile angle. 200 points? Totally worth it. I looked around the classroom. Almost every desk was taken. Students from other classes had flooded in, presumably to stare at either Ayla or Clara or both. Only one desk still had space. So I grabbed a stool from the back of the room, carried it through the crowd of confused onlookers, and planted myself right next to Clara. Same desk. I flashed her my best troublemaker grin. "Hey, beautiful. Mind if I squeeze in?" She didn't answer. She just scooted over a little to give me more room and let out a quiet, haughty humph. And at that exact moment, louder than her little huff, was the sound of every boy in the classroom's heart shattering into pieces. Kale sat there staring at me like I'd stolen his lunch. I was now planted right between him and his goddess, completely blocking his view. The 200 points he'd just paid? Totally useless now. Every other guy in the room looked ready to murder me too. They were all thinking the same thing. If I just walked over and sat down, would she have let me stay too? I shrank down and pretended to read my notes. Beside me, Clara twirled a strand of silver hair between her fingers, looking perfectly content. Class started and the angry stares faded, except Kale's. But 2 periods in, my mood crashed. I could follow basic magic lectures, but anything more advanced went completely over my head. I was wasting time. I buried my face in my arms and thought hard. Clara reached out like she was going to poke me, but pulled her hand back. Kale sneered from his seat, probably thinking, "Sleeping in class already? My goddess can't possibly be interested in this failure." Then it hit me. I shot up from my seat, eyes wide, and ran out of the classroom without a word. The teacher stopped mid-sentence. Everyone stared. Clara looked unhappy, but I wasn't losing my mind. I just remembered something Dean Saining said. Pass the evaluation by reaching Warrior Master or Mage level and deal lethal damage to a test dummy. He didn't say which path you had to use. He didn't say Mage students couldn't fight as warriors. I was Magic Apprentice 3rd stage, hopeless for the Mage evaluation. But I was also Warrior 3rd stage. If I could push to Warrior Master in 3 months and land a solid hit on a dummy, I'd pass. The more I thought about it, the more it made sense. And nobody said a Mage student couldn't attend Warrior classes. I patted myself on the back for being so clever and ran straight to the training grounds. The moment I arrived, every head turned. A guy in mage robes wandering into the warrior training grounds was apparently a once-in-a-century event. People pointed and whispered. I ignored them and searched for Arthur's class. The grounds were massive, nearly 2,000 warrior students, and I couldn't find him anywhere. While I was wandering around looking lost, a sharp voice stopped me. "Hey, you in the mage robes. What are you doing at the training grounds?" I looked over and my stomach dropped. It was the older male examiner from the entrance test, the one who'd smiled that creepy smile when he admitted me. The one who dumped me in the mage program on purpose. Just here to sit in on some warrior classes, sir. Don't mind me. I tried to walk away fast. He recognized me too. Hard to forget the kid who'd conned his way into the academy. He thought for a second. He knew my real situation and called out, "If you want warrior classes, come join mine. I'm teaching right now." No way. I'd literally set a trap for this guy 2 days ago. Going to his class would be walking into the lion's den. No need to trouble you, sir. I'll find another instructor. He smiled that same knowing smile. Well, if you'd rather find someone else, I won't force you. As for the evaluation, though, he didn't finish. He didn't need to. I stopped walking. He knew my secret. He knew I needed warrior training to survive the evaluation. And he was making it very clear that if I didn't play along, things would get complicated. I spun around, jogged back, and put on my most flattering expression. "I wouldn't want to waste your valuable time, sir. It would be an honor to learn from you." He nodded, satisfied. "Go join the formation over there." I followed behind him, silently cursing his entire female family tree 100 times over. Then I saw his class and froze. Over 100 students. Every other class had 30 or 40. Was this guy that popular? Or was something else going on? The students stared at me in my mage robes, whispering and speculating. The instructor spoke up. "This is Asura. He'll be joining Class 8 for warrior training from now on." Then he turned to me. "I'm Instructor Anger, and you will call me Instructor Anger." I nodded earnestly. "Got it, Uncle Anger." A vein pulsed on his forehead. Nobody had called him Uncle in his entire teaching career. He stared at me for a long, dangerous moment, then laughed despite himself and waved me into formation. "All right, everyone, continuing combat training. Groups of 10, attack me with everything you've got. Go." I blinked. That's it. That's the whole lesson plan. 10 students charged Instructor Anger. A second later, all 10 went flying in different directions, crashing to the ground, groaning in pain. Next group, same result. 10 in, 10 airborne, 10 moaning on the ground. I swallowed hard. If I go up there, I'll probably fly the farthest. I really regretted calling him Uncle. Then it was my Rose turn. My brain switched to survival mode. I charged forward with my 9 teammates, screaming along with them. But right before reaching Anger, I jumped backward on my own, threw myself to the ground, and started rolling around yelling, "Ow wow," along with everyone else. I hadn't been touched. Not even close. I'd faked the whole thing. I was here to learn techniques, not to get beaten up. I felt absolutely zero guilt about this. Anger frowned. Something felt off. He'd thrown 9 punches, not 10. He scanned the groaning bodies on the ground and immediately spotted the one in mage robes writhing dramatically. His eyes narrowed with a cold smile. "So this little rat thinks he can cheat in my class." I was still rolling around doing my best, wounded student, impression when the last group of 10 charged Anger. I figured I was safe now, still lying on the ground playing hurt. Then something slammed into my back out of nowhere. A body crashed right on top of me. One of the students' Anger had just launched and knocked every bit of air from my lungs. A mane of fiery red hair flopped across my face. Gasping in pain, I instinctively pushed at the person on top of me to get them off. My right hand pressed against something soft. Round. Very. Springy. I squeezed without thinking. The red-haired person slowly turned their head and looked down at me. It was a girl. A stunningly beautiful face, sharp features, fierce and perfect like a carved statue, stared at me with ice-cold eyes. "Enjoying yourself?" she asked. The moment I heard her voice, cold, sharp, dripping with killing intent, I knew exactly what I'd grabbed. I also knew there was no talking my way out of this one. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I squeezed twice more and said, "Not bad, honestly." She froze for half a second. Then she launched off me like a spring, pulling a massive horse-slaying blade from her storage ring while still in midair. But I was already moving. The instant she jumped, I flipped to my feet and dove into the crowd of students behind me. She landed, blade drawn, scanning the group with murder in her eyes. She was tall, taller than most of the guys, with a body that could stop traffic and a face that belonged on a war goddess painting. Combined with that enormous sword, she was absolutely terrifying. The students backed up 2 steps. Some guys who'd apparently joined Class 8 specifically because of her stared with lovesick eyes. They found her rage attractive. These people had problems. She searched the crowd for my face. I stayed low, head down, barely breathing. I felt like I was back in the forest hiding from predators. This woman is insane. I can't stay in Class 8. I've been here less than 1 period, and 2 people already want to kill me. This place is a death trap. What I didn't realize was that if anyone else found out what I'd done, the number wanting to kill me would go way beyond 2. Instructor Inger watched from a distance, clearly amused. I'm pretty sure I was making his boring day entertaining. No break this period, he announced. Moving straight to the next exercise, he did that on purpose. He knew I'd bolt the second he said, "Dismissed." Everyone lined up. The red-haired girl reined in her fury and rejoined the formation, though every student near her kept their distance. Smart. Inger smiled, never a good sign, and said, "Your attacks earlier were sloppy. No real combat experience. Since this is a combat training class, I'm pairing you up for sparring partners. You'll practice together from now on. Use any techniques you learn. No crippling injuries." The warrior students buzzed with excitement. Only 2 people weren't paying attention, me and the red-haired girl. We were both nervously scanning our surroundings for very different reasons. He started calling out pairs. With each name, students stepped forward and found their positions on the field. The crowd got smaller and smaller. My cold sweat got heavier and heavier. Fewer people to hide behind. I could feel an icy stare locked onto me from the side. I didn't dare turn my head. Finally, last pair, Manhwa versus Asura. Every student on the field turned to look at me with complex expressions. Envy, pity, sympathy, horror. Not a single one offered to trade. Manhwa? The name sounded familiar somehow. I turned and saw her. The tall red-haired girl stood with her arms crossed, smiling coldly at me. Her chest heaved with barely contained rage, which only made her figure more noticeable. But I was not in the mood to appreciate the view. I spun back to Inger. "Sir, I request a different partner. I never hit women." Before I could finish, a boot slammed into my backside so hard I flew onto the field and ate dirt face first. Dead silence. Nobody laughed. The pitying looks multiplied. I spat out a mouthful of grass and punched the ground. In my entire life, no woman had ever kicked me in the butt. I heard footsteps approaching from behind. Heavy, deliberate, angry footsteps. I planted my hands and sprang up, landing in the opening stance of the Thunder Rush fist. Fine. She wanted to fight? I'd teach this crazy woman a lesson. Inger's grin widened. Begin. I charged at her like a thunderbolt. About 30 minutes later, I lay spread eagle in the middle of the training field, staring at the sky. My hair was a disaster. My face was swollen. Both eyes were black. My mage robe was covered in boot prints. I looked like a human doormat. Manhwa dusted off her hands, tucked her fiery hair behind one ear, and smiled radiantly. She was in an excellent mood. I'd gotten completely destroyed. She was Warrior Master first stage, a full tier above me. Her strength, speed, and reflexes were all far beyond mine. And she hadn't even used her giant blade. This was the gap between levels, and it was humbling. But she'd noticed something too. Even though I was only Warrior 3rd stage with mediocre technique, I'd fought dirty, tricks, feints, sudden attacks, and my reactions and movement were surprisingly quick. She'd actually had to go all out to beat me. And apparently, beating me was way more satisfying than beating anyone else she'd sparred with. Then something happened that made my day even worse. Manhwa's energy suddenly surged. Her blood chi roared through her body, her bones crackled, and with a fierce shout, she broke through to Warrior Master 2nd stage. Right there, right after pummeling me. Everyone stared in shock. Manhwa beamed with joy, and every guy on the field fell in love all over again. Inger nodded approvingly at her, then said with a wicked grin, "Manhwa, you broke through so quickly thanks to your excellent sparring partner. You two should practice together often. Maybe you'll reach 3rd stage soon. From now on, you're permanently paired. He's your gold medal sparring partner." Manhwa's eyes lit up like a predator spotting its favorite prey. She stared at me lying on the ground, playing dead. The other students exchanged horrified glances. I lay there motionless, internally cursing Manhwa in every way imaginable. How is this girl so strong? She didn't even use her sword. This is what a 1-tier gap feels like. When I'm strong enough, I swear I'll pay her back 100 times over. And that Uncle Inger, gold medal sparring partner? I'm a human punching bag. She just broke through because of beating me up. Only an idiot would keep doing this. Tomorrow I'm switching classes. The bell rang. I dragged my battered body toward the dormitory. Students pointed and whispered as I passed. I ignored every single one of them. What I didn't know was that my glorious new title, gold medal sparring partner, had already spread through the entire freshman class thanks to the enthusiastic gossip of Class 8 students. I was officially the hottest topic among the new students. I limped back to the dorm and collapsed into a chair. Jinza and Arthur took one look at my mangled face and went pale. Arthur jumped up, furious. "Who did this to you? Tell me, and I'll challenge them to a duel right now." He was already storming toward the door. My heart swelled. Now that was brotherly loyalty. I called after him with tears practically streaming down my face. It was a red-haired girl in Warrior Class 8. Her name's Magina. She's really tall. You can't miss her. Go beat her up for me. She's a monster. Arthur's hand was on the doorknob. Then he froze. He turned around slowly. "Did you say? Magina? A girl?" "Yes. Magina. She's tougher than most guys. Carries a sword bigger than she is. Look at my eyes. Look at this swelling. Oh, and be careful. She broke through another stage after beating me up, but she's probably still no match for you." Arthur quietly walked back and sat down. I stared at him. He squirmed uncomfortably. "Third brother. I can't help with this one. First, she's my cousin on my aunt's side. We're related. Second, I've never been able to beat her. Ever. Since we were kids. And you said she just broke through again, so if I go over there, I'll end up looking worse than you." Silence. Jinza had nothing to say either. Then the door burst open and Lolo charged in, practically vibrating with excitement. "Huge news. Huge news. Some mage went to the training grounds today and got himself beaten up. He volunteered to spar with Magina. She's number 5 on the beauty rankings, and she broke through a whole stage just from beating him. Can you believe it?" "Ha ha ha," he trailed off. The room was dead silent. Jinza and Arthur were looking at me with pained expressions. The pieces clicked together in Lolo's head. I finally understood why Magina's name had sounded familiar. She was on his stupid beauty ranking. And now the whole school knew I got beaten up by her. My reputation was over before it started. I let out a howl of anguish and fled to my room. Jinza and Arthur knocked on my door, trying to comfort me. I didn't open it. Downstairs, Lolo whispered nervously, "Should I tell him that someone's offering 200 points to beat him up, hoping it'll trigger a breakthrough for them too?" Jinza. Arthur. Alone in my room, I fumed for a while, then sighed. It all came down to being too weak. I replayed the entire fight in my head, noted what I did wrong and what worked, then sat on my bed and started meditating. If I couldn't understand magic lectures yet, at least I could build up my foundation. Every second counted. The next morning, I skipped magic class. The first 2 periods were advanced magic skills, completely beyond me, so I went to the training grounds instead. Meanwhile, in classroom 13, Clara sat down and stared at the empty seat beside her. Some handsome mage from another class sauntered over and asked with a hair flip, "May I sit here, beautiful lady?" She didn't even look up. "This seat is taken," he fumbled for a response. She raised her voice. "Did I not make myself clear? Someone sits here." The guy turned 3 different colors and slunk away. Kale nearly cried with joy, convinced Clara was saving the seat for him in spirit. She was not. At the training grounds, I crept along the edge, scouting for a class that wasn't Class 8. I spotted a large group waiting for their instructor and confirmed, no Class 8 students. I walked over and smiled my friendliest smile. "Hey, mind if I join your class today?" "Not at all. Welcome." Who would turn away a gold medal sparring partner? A familiar, amused voice came from behind me. I turned in horror. Instructor Anger stood there grinning like a cat with a mouse. I wanted to die. "Good morning, Instructor Anger. You should get to Class 8. They're waiting for you." "I'm fine right here." He laughed for what felt like a full minute. Then he stroked his goatee and said, "Actually, I'm teaching here today. This is Class 7. I handle their combat skills course too." I tried to run. A huge hand grabbed my collar and dragged me back. He tossed me into the formation and started teaching. Despite everything, I had to admit, the man was good. Really good. His explanations were clear and his demonstrations were perfect. He kept pulling me up as his demonstration partner, which meant I took a few hits, but I didn't mind. Being up close let me understand the techniques better. Then came second period. Partner sparring again. I looked around nervously. No red hair. I let out a breath of relief. Too soon. "Wanyu." Anger called out with that horrible smile. "I've got a gold medal sparring partner for you. Magina from Class 8 broke through just from sparring with this kid yesterday. Don't miss your chance. Asura, stop hiding. Get over here." I clenched my fists, veins popping. I was now absolutely certain that Anger was the one who'd spread the story about me getting beaten up. I added, "Get strong enough to punch this old man," to my list of life goals. While I stood there lost in furious thoughts about revenge and getting stronger, a pair of very long legs stepped into my downward line of sight. I looked up and saw a girl with long blue hair standing in front of me. The first thing I noticed, and I couldn't help it, were her legs. They went on forever. Seriously, it looked like everything below her neck was just legs. She had a cool, elegant face with fox-like eyes that gave her a dangerous charm, and her blue hair was pulled up in a high ponytail. She looked like a sports magazine cover. She caught me staring at her legs. Those fox eyes narrowed. Every alarm bell in my body went off, and I immediately looked elsewhere. I knew Inger's pattern by now. Any girl he paired me with was going to be terrifying. I was not doing this again. I object, I shouted. I'm going back to magic class. Find her someone else. That big guy over there. He looks like he'd love to spar with her. I pointed at some tall student who'd been sneaking glances at her. He blushed and looked at the ground. I was already walking away. Inger didn't even acknowledge me. He just said, "Begin," wind at the back of my skull. I dove forward into a somersault just in time to dodge a kick that would have taken my head off. The blue-haired girl, Lanyu, landed gracefully, took a fighting stance, and beckoned me with one finger. Something snapped inside me. I jumped up and roared, "You asked for it. Prepare yourself for my ultimate technique, the divine wind leg. HYH. Watch the legs." Lanyu tensed up, bracing for whatever devastating attack was coming. I turned around and sprinted away as fast as I could. Her pale face went even whiter with fury. She huffed once, and those impossibly long legs ate up the distance between us in seconds. The training grounds got a new show that day. A boy running for his life while a girl chased him, kicking him every time she got close. She was incredibly fast, way faster than me. All I could do was dodge, change direction, throw fake-outs, and try to block her whip kicks. My mage robe collected even more boot prints than yesterday. On the other side of the field, Magina was in her own class, bored with the substitute teacher's conditioning lecture. She scanned the area idly and spotted two figures sprinting along the edge of the grounds. She recognized the one in front instantly, and the one chasing me was Lan Yu from the Lan family. Their families were rivals. They'd been compared to each other their whole lives. Why is that little punk sparring with her? Magina's mood turned sour immediately. She felt like someone had stolen her favorite toy. Lan Yu finally caught me with a perfect split kick, one foot pinning my neck against a tree, the other leg on the ground. I was trapped, back against the trunk, staring up at a girl doing a standing splits on my throat. The bell rang. End of class. It's over. Stop. And no more fighting. I grabbed her foot with both hands and pried it away from my neck just enough to breathe. If you hit me again, it's assault outside of class. I'll report you to the academy. She was panting slightly. Even she'd had to go nearly full speed to keep up with my constant direction changes and dirty tricks. But she seemed excited, like chasing me had been the most fun she'd had in ages. Then she noticed I was still holding her foot. Her face turned red, and she tried to pull it back. I was gripping too tight. Those fox eyes narrowed dangerously again. I let go instantly and slid down the tree to the ground, gasping. She looked at the boot prints all over my robe and almost laughed, but her pride held it back. Instead, she said coolly, "Sparring with you is fun. Make sure to come find me next time." Then she bounced away, hands behind her back, blue ponytail swinging cheerfully. I watched her go, wincing. Am I a masochist? Come find you next time? Why would I? Just because you have long legs? I'll just pick a different class tomorrow. There's no way Inger teaches every class. I was leaning against the tree, about to stand up and dust off the footprints, when another pair of long legs appeared in front of me. I looked up slowly. Magina towered over me, hands on her hips, glaring down with the sun filtering through the leaves behind her, making her look beautiful and absolutely terrifying at the same time. I swallowed hard. What does SHE want now? I attempted my most charming smile. Before I could even say hello, she snapped. Was that fun? Getting beaten up by her? Who told you to be her sparring partner? I was completely lost. What was she talking about? Did she think I enjoyed getting kicked? She didn't wait for an answer. She bent down, her face inches from mine, radiating pressure like a drill sergeant. From now on, you're my sparring partner. Only mine. And in return, I'll protect you. Nobody in this academy will bully you. She stared at me, waiting for a response. I tried to answer. I really did. But when she bent forward, her collar fell open and the view straight ahead was very distracting. She followed my eyes downward, realized what I was seeing, yelped, grabbed her collar, and reached for her storage ring where that enormous sword lived. Wait, sister, we're family, I yelled. I'm Arthur's roommate. Your cousin's roommate. Let's talk this out. She paused, then snorted. Oh, so you're that useless Arthur's roommate. Good. Then I know where to find you if you don't show up. Remember what I said. Mine. She turned and strutted away. I sat there feeling very sorry for myself. Meanwhile, Lanyu bounced happily back to Class 7's formation. Best fight she'd had in forever. Then she suddenly stopped moving. Her whole body trembled. The students around her panicked and called for Instructor Anger. By the time he pushed through the crowd, she was looking up with wide, disbelieving eyes. Instructor Anger. I think I just broke through to Warrior Master 2nd stage. Dead silence. Then Anger burst out laughing harder than ever. That Asura is a miracle worker. Yesterday Magina broke through after sparring with him. Today it's you. Is this kid made of magic herbs? Beat him up and you level up? Ha ha ha. Lanyu laughed too, but when she heard Magina's name, her eyebrows twitched. So that woman had used him to break through yesterday. Humph. Next time I need to tell him he's only allowed to spar with me. At that exact moment, I dragged my battered body back to Magic Class 13 and collapsed face first onto the desk next to a certain silver-haired girl. I crashed onto Clara's desk like a dead man. She jumped, then wrinkled her nose at my dirty robe and the faint smell of sweat. She poked me with her finger. Where did you run off to? Why do you look like this? I just lifted one eyelid, glanced at her, and put my head back down. That was apparently the wrong move. Her voice went sharp. I'm the class president. You skipped class without permission. I'm telling the teacher. I groaned internally. Why did every pretty girl in this school want to make my life harder? The dean said we're free to choose any class we want. I mumbled. She opened her mouth, remembered that the dean had indeed said exactly that, and puffed out her cheeks in frustration. That's still no excuse. The 3-month evaluation is coming and you're not even attending. Mind your own business, I snapped, cutting her off. The words hit her like a slap. Nobody had ever talked to her like that. She lifted her chin high, maybe out of pride, maybe so I wouldn't see her eyes getting wet. Kale, who'd been eavesdropping the whole time, seized his moment. He jumped up heroically. How dare you speak to the class president that way? You're a terrible student dragging down our class. Your behavior is, mind your own business, Clara said coldly. Kale's mouth froze mid-sentence. The entire class went silent. If anyone needed to cry right now, it was him. I looked at Clara, surprised. Then I felt guilty. She hadn't done anything wrong. I'd been taking out my frustration from getting beaten up by those 2 girls on her, and that wasn't fair. I pulled out my notebook and wrote. Sorry, I had no choice. I can't understand the magic classes. I slid the notebook over to her. She was clearly planning to never speak to me again, but she looked at it anyway. I watched her expression change, surprise, confusion, thought, realization, and finally understanding. She'd been at the entrance exam. She knew my situation. She was smart enough to piece everything together. Her anger melted away. She bit her lip and wrote back. Then what are you going to do? Can you pass the evaluation? What happened to you these past 2 days? I wrote back explaining my plan, using warrior training to pass instead of magic, and gave her a summary of my adventures with Magina and Lanyu. She wrote questions. I wrote answers. Back and forth, filling page after page. It was her first time passing notes with a boy. Her first time talking this much with one, too. Finally, she chewed on her pen and wrote, I don't know if your plan will work, but if you ever have magic questions, you can ask me anytime. I read it and felt my mood lift for the first time all day. I wrote back, thanks. Let me survive the 3-month evaluation first, then we'll talk. We'd been writing for so long that neither of us noticed the bell ring. We'd both completely skipped the lecture. Clara's cheeks turned pink when she realized. She slammed the notebook shut. I stood up, stretched, told her, keep this secret for me, and headed back to the dorm. She sneaked the notebook into her storage ring like she was hiding stolen treasure. Back at the dorm, Jinza and Arthur were waiting for me in the common room. They looked relieved to see I wasn't as banged up as yesterday. I sat down and asked Jinza for tea, and the 3 of us chatted and laughed about school life. Then Lolo burst through the door, staring at me without blinking. Third brother, is it true you got beaten up by Lanyu from class 7 today? She's number something on the beauty rankings. I glared at him. How did this kid know everything? Jinza and Arthur went from shocked to jealous. I'd only been here a few days and I already had relationships, however violent, with 2 of the top 10 beauties. These guys couldn't even get one to look at them. Lolo wasn't done. Third brother, You know what happened after? Lanyu broke through to Warrior Master 2nd Stage 2. Right after fighting you. I spat tea all over Lolo's face. He wiped it off calmly and continued. The whole school is saying that fighting you triggers breakthroughs. Someone's already offering 500 points to spar with you. Every warrior class knows you've been hopping between classes, and the strong students are all hoping you'll show up in theirs. Third brother, your price is 500 points per beating. You want me to set it up? I've got buyers. I was about to tell him exactly where he could put his sales pitch when I noticed Arthur's eyes blazing with excitement. More excited than if he'd seen a naked supermodel. Third brother, he said with a disturbing grin. I've been stuck at Warrior Master 1st Stage for half a year. We're brothers, right? Just one little spar between us. After I break through to 2nd Stage. No, 3rd Stage. I'll go beat up Magina for you. Deal? The look in his eyes was predatory. I dove behind Jinza for cover. Jinza stepped in and calmed everyone down. Arthur slowly came back to his senses. He was just anxious. Hearing that so many people were reaching 2nd Stage while he was stuck had gotten to him. I asked Jinza a few magic questions, then went to my room. My situation was a complete mess. Every warrior class in the entire freshman year was waiting for me with open fists. All I wanted was to take some combat classes. How did it turn into this? Despite everything, I meditated through the entire night again. My body kept absorbing magic elements endlessly, like a bottomless pit. I'd asked Jinza about his meditation sessions. He could only manage about 3 hours before hitting his limit. Something was seriously different about me, but I had no time to figure out what. The next morning, I decided to go back to the training grounds. Better to get beaten by Magina and Lanyu than by random strangers trying to buy a breakthrough. Between the two, Lanyu was slightly preferable. At least she didn't hit my face. But when I reached the training ground entrance, I spotted them both. Red hair and blue hair, standing at the gate, waiting for me. Together, I turned and ran straight back toward the Magic Academy. Were they insane? 2 Warrior Master 2nd Stage fighters teaming up on me? My body would be in pieces. Behind me, the 2 girls watched me flee. Lanyu turned to Magina. This is your fault. He saw you and got scared. Magina fired back. I found him first. You're the one who stole my sparring partner. I didn't steal anything. Instructor Anger assigned him to me, and he agreed to spar with me. Liar. He promised to spar with only me yesterday. They'd never gotten along, and this pushed them over the edge. They argued louder and louder until words weren't enough. They started fighting, right there at the training ground entrance. It ended in a draw when their respective instructors had to physically drag them apart. By that afternoon, the hottest news among the freshmen was 2 top 10 beauties got into a brawl over a sparring partner. That sparring partner was me. And I was hiding in the Magic Academy, pretending none of this was happening. I decided to skip the training grounds and rest my body at the Magic Academy for a day. Getting beaten up every day wasn't healthy. But before I even made it to the classroom, Teacher Ayla called me into her office. I stood in front of her desk. She offered me a chair, but I refused. I told her I preferred standing to receive her lecture. The real reason was that from a standing angle, I had a rather pleasant view downward. She smiled carefully, clearly trying not to hurt my feelings. Asura, would you mind telling me your current level? Magic Apprentice 3rd Stage. I think I'm close to breaking through to Mage 1st Stage. Her eyes went wide. She hadn't expected that much progress in just a few days. She mentioned that some classmates had reported me skipping class to hang around the training grounds. I didn't need to guess who reported me. Kale. I need to keep my distance from that snitch. I was honest with her. Yes, teacher. My foundation is too weak for the advanced lectures. Instead of wasting time here, I figured I'd sharpen my warrior skills at the training grounds. She looked genuinely worried. Is there anything I can do to help? I believe you can pass the evaluation if you work hard. I was surprised by how sincere she was. I smiled. I believe I can pass too. The one thing you can do for me. When evaluation day comes, please be on my side. She didn't understand what I meant by that, but she decided to trust me. Back in the classroom, I sat down next to Clara. She smelled nice. I may have sniffed a little too obviously. She didn't react, but her ears turned completely red. We sat through the lectures quietly, no note passing this time. But during breaks, my desk was buried under challenge letters shoved in from outside. Some people wanted to spar with me hoping for a breakthrough. Others were jealous about Magina and Lanyu and wanted to fight me over it. I threw every single one in the trash. I thought these were love letters. Every single one is just someone wanting to punch me. Clara's eyes crinkled into little crescents as she laughed. You're so awful. What girl would write you a love letter? Before I could respond, the chubby boy from the row ahead, Nawe, the self-proclaimed handsome one, came running in, drenched in sweat. Asura, did you hear? Magina and Lon Yu actually fought each other over you at the training grounds. You have to teach me how you get girls. How did you do it? You're not even as handsome as me, he kept rambling. But beside me, Clara had gone completely still. She'd turned her face away. The quill pen in her hand was bending almost to the breaking point. I was confused. They fought over me. I thought they'd teamed up to fight me. No wonder I'd gotten so many challenge letters. This whole mess had painted a target on my back. I sat through the rest of class on edge, then bolted for the dorm the moment the bell rang. Jinza and Lolo were huddled at the table, writing and sketching. I peeked. They were making little collector cards for the top 10 beauties ranking. Their gossip business was officially launching. I left them to it, went upstairs, and lay on my bed thinking. Honestly, as much as I hated getting beaten up, the sparring had helped me enormously. Fighting opponents stronger than me, going all out every time. It was pushing me further than any classroom lecture could. I just needed to make it work for me instead of against me. I decided to negotiate. Then I meditated through the night again. My magic level felt right at the edge of a breakthrough. Maybe just a few more days. The next morning, I went to the training grounds before classes started and waited at the entrance. Soon enough, Lon Yu and Magina arrived almost at the same time. Their uniforms were damp with sweat. Both had been doing morning training already. Seeing how disciplined they were made me feel a little guilty. But then I remembered I'd been meditating all night and felt better. They spotted me and froze. Then they both sprinted over and grabbed an arm each, trying to drag me toward their own class area. I nearly split in half. Stop. Let go. You lunatics. They both released me at the same instant, then simultaneously hit me. A whip kick from one side, a heavy punch from the other. I went flying. Before I could stand up, 2 boots pressed down on my chest. I looked up at 2 furious faces hovering over me. Wait, I gasped. I came to negotiate. If you kill me, who's going to be your sparring partner? They reluctantly lifted their feet and crossed their arms, glaring, waiting. I got up, dusted myself off with exaggerated elegance, and put on my most refined smile. Ladies, I hear you both benefited greatly from sparring with me, and both broke through to Warrior Master 2nd stage. Naturally, training with a top-tier opponent is the fastest path to growth. They both rolled their eyes so hard I'm surprised they didn't strain something. I pressed on. I also heard you 2 fought each other yesterday because of me. That's terrible. Friends shouldn't fight. So here's my proposal. Since you both want to spar with me, why not bid for the privilege? You pay me academy points per session. Whoever offers more gets me that day. Think of it as covering my medical expenses and labor costs. With more points, I can improve faster, which means better sparring for you, which means faster growth under my expert guidance. You should know that right now, people are offering 500 points to spar with me. There's a waiting list. But I'm a loyal person. We have history together. You 2 even fought over me. How could I abandon you? I spread my arms magnanimously. So, ladies, the bidding is open. Highest offer wins. The 2 girls stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Apparently, my brilliant negotiation speech was beyond their comprehension. They'd never met anyone so shameless. They exchanged a single glance and instantly formed an alliance, the first thing they'd ever agreed on. Magina said sweetly, "That's a nice speech. But I think we can beat you up for free." Before I could argue, Lon Yu's legs sent me flying again. I scrambled backward. Wait, we can negotiate. I didn't say the price was fixed. They kept walking toward me. 400. 400 is fine. Still coming. 300. 300. Come on. Closer. 200. That's a great deal. Almost within punching range. 100. 100 points per month. Final offer. Take it, or I'll never come to the training grounds again. I mean it. They actually stopped. They huddled together, whispering back and forth, then turned around. Magina fought back a grin. Fine. 100 points per month. 1 month trial. If you bail on us, we're coming to your dorm. I let out a secret breath of relief. Deal. Pay first, spar after. I pulled out my badge for the transfer. They handed theirs over. I looked at the amount and nearly exploded. Can you 2 not count? We said 100 points. You each sent 50. What is this? Lon Yu said calmly. We're splitting the cost. 1 day each. Today you're Magina's. Tomorrow you're mine. Show up every day. No skipping, no being late. Otherwise, she cracked her knuckles. Double B down. I stared at 2 beautiful, smiling faces and thought, Whoever said pretty girls are kind-hearted was a filthy liar. Fury surged through me. I started to raise my fists into the Thunder Rush fist stance, and instantly felt a massive blade on one side of my neck and a glowing dagger on the other. My fighting spirit evaporated. I lowered my hands slowly and muttered my one final demand. Fine. But no hitting my face, and so my new routine began. Mornings I'd attend whatever magic classes I could actually follow. When the lectures went over my head, I'd skip to the training grounds instead. I sweet-talked Clara into taking notes for me during the classes I missed. She made them incredibly detailed, adding her own explanations to make things easier for me to understand. Sometimes she'd slip in tricky questions on purpose, so I'd have to come find her the next day for answers. The sparring was brutal. Both girls had reached Warrior Master 2nd stage, and I was still weaker, but they never gave up on me. If anything, they seemed to enjoy beating me more every day. Within a month, I broke through to Warrior Master 1st stage. The girls were so excited they immediately renewed their membership. Of course, the renewal process involved me foolishly thinking I could take them on now that I'd leveled up, which resulted in a 2-on-1 beating that left me regretting every life choice I'd ever made. 3 months flew by. The evaluation was almost here. My progress was real. Through daily combat against stronger opponents, my warrior skills had skyrocketed. I was knocking on the door of Warrior Master 2nd stage. My Thunder Rush fist had improved to 2 thunderclaps, 2 waves of penetrating force per punch. But I hadn't shown the girls that yet. I wanted to save it for a surprise. After 3 months of getting beaten, I deserved at least one good moment. I'd even done something creative, adapted the Thunder Rush fist principles to work with Second Brother's twin sabers. I had no formal saber techniques, so I grafted the fist's explosive power onto blade movements. The results were surprisingly effective. On the magic side, meditating every single night, without fail, had pushed me to Mage 3rd stage. Still short of the Mage 1st stage the evaluation technically required for magic students, but it didn't matter. I was a solid Warrior Master 1st stage now. I was confident I could pass the combat evaluation. My mage robe was in tatters from 3 months of daily sparring. A replacement cost 100 points. I couldn't bring myself to spend that. I knew exactly how hard those points were to earn. What surprised me most was how much Magina and Lanyu had noticed my growth. Magina had to go full power to handle me now. I'd even caught Lanyu struggling to keep up during our speed-based exchanges, though she'd rather die than admit it. The gap was closing fast. There was one incident I should mention. Early in the month, I'd snuck a Thunder Rush punch at Magina's chest during sparring. She blocked with her arm, but the penetrating force went through and left a bruise. She didn't say anything at the time, but the next day she swapped schedules with Lanyu and spent the entire session destroying me so thoroughly I could barely walk afterward. Lanyu was furious about losing her turn. Now the 3-month evaluation was upon us. Some students were excited, eager to prove themselves. Some were panicking, cramming last-minute training. Some were even planning to compete for the title of top freshman. Me? I was quietly confident. 3 months of blood, sweat, and boot prints had forged me into something much stronger than the boy who'd stumbled through the academy gates. Time to show everyone what a gold medal sparring partner could really do. The morning of the evaluation, I got up early as usual, grabbed 4 breakfasts from the cafeteria, and brought them back for my roommates. Our little group had gotten really close over these 3 months. Our top 10 beauties ranking cards had been a massive hit. We'd earned over 1,000 points selling those things, complete with half-true gossip tidbits. Jinza insisted on splitting everything 4 ways equally. I felt guilty since I hadn't done much for the business, so I tried to help out wherever I could. After breakfast, the 3 of us wished each other luck and headed to our separate classes. Lolo didn't have to take the evaluation, so naturally he was still asleep. Walking into class 13, I noticed most of my classmates barely acknowledged me. Fair enough. I skipped class constantly, and the rumor was that I did it to chase girls at the training grounds. The proud and noble mages of my class looked down on me for that. They'd also heard my magic level was embarrassingly low. The only ones who treated me like a friend were Clara and Nawe, the chubby boy from the row ahead. Clara had been with me since the entrance exam, so we had a bond. Nawe thought I was a fellow bottom-of-the-class student and felt a natural kinship. His only passion in life was food. He'd blown all his points on the expensive second-floor cafeteria dishes. I'd been up there once and nearly fainted at the prices. No way I was spending my hard-earned points on meals. Clara leaned over and whispered, "The evaluation is today." Can you handle it? I leaned back in my chair lazily. A man should never say he can't handle it. She gave me the biggest eye roll I'd ever seen. She was used to me by now. She actually enjoyed talking to me. She'd told me once, because I never put on a perfect act to impress her like every other guy did. I just was who I was. Of course, she didn't know that all those fun facts about her hobbies and habits on the beauty ranking cards, those came from me. If she ever found out, whatever goodwill she had toward me would evaporate instantly. Nae turned around. Hey Asura, after the evaluation, let's go to the second floor and spend your points on a feast. You're getting kicked out anyway, so don't let those points go to waste. I grabbed my notebook to throw at his head, then caught Clara shooting me a death glare. That notebook had all her handwritten notes for me inside, plus our months of written conversations. If I threw it, a mage second stage lightning bolt would fry me on the spot. Yes, Clara had already reached mage second stage. The girl was a genuine genius. Kale had also hit mage second stage recently, which had inflated his ego to the point where he believed he was Clara's destined soulmate. I put the notebook down and settled for glaring at Nae. Worry about yourself first, big guy. That shut him up. He was mage first stage, but hadn't practiced his skills properly. His basic lightning summoning spell worked about half the time. He was quietly terrified about the evaluation too. Then teacher Ayla walked in, dressed formally, her expression a mix of seriousness and hope. Magic Class 13, follow me to the magic testing arena for your evaluation. We all stood and filed out in tense silence. The arena was a large, open, dome-shaped space with the roof pulled back to let sunlight flood in. As we entered, Class 12 was just finishing. A few students walked out looking crushed. One girl was sobbing. The sight made everyone in my class even more nervous. Ayla turned to us with an encouraging smile. Relax, everyone. Lightning is the highest damage magic element. You're better equipped to pass this test than almost anyone. I know each of your abilities. I believe every one of you can make it. Her words helped. 3 months together had proven that Ayla wasn't just beautiful and a great teacher. She was genuinely kind. Her lectures drew the biggest crowds of any instructor, and it was no mystery why so many male teachers were still chasing her. Her eyes found me at the back of the group. 3 months of combat training had changed my body. I was taller, more muscular, visibly stronger. My tattered mage robe was stretched tight over muscles that didn't belong on a magic student. I stood out like a wolf in a flock of sheep. She tried so many times to help me, offering tutoring, extra guidance, even paying out of her own pocket for a new robe when mine got too damaged. I turned it all down. I had my own plan, and I needed to follow it my way. All she could give me now was a look that said good luck. I flashed her a small grin back. The testing area held a single white humanoid dummy about my height, made of some unknown material and covered in blue magic runes. On a raised platform nearby sat 3 examiner instructors, one to host, one to record, and one to judge. The judge was a hook-nosed mage with a face that said he'd never smiled in his life. The host stood and announced, "The first magic evaluation begins now. The rules are simple. Deal damage to the test dummy and you pass. When the dummy takes a valid hit, it changes color. Any color change means you've passed. Only attacks at mage level or above, delivered with proper technique, can trigger a color change. You've had 3 months to prepare. No more talk. Magic Class 13. Your evaluation starts now, one by one." The examiner called names, and my classmates stepped up. They launched their best lightning spells at the test dummy, making it flash blue, and the hook-nosed judge would nod and say, "Pass." Some students even pulled out family magic staffs to boost their power. The academy allowed it since good equipment was part of your strength. When Kale's turn came, he made a whole production of it. Fixed his hair, dramatically drew a gorgeous staff from his storage ring. The thing had a thunder element magic core the size of a pigeon egg mounted on top. His family was clearly loaded. He soaked up the envious stares, then glanced at Clara hoping to see admiration. She stared at him blankly and actually frowned, probably annoyed that he was wasting everyone's time with his posing. He cast his spell through the staff and hit the dummy with a 3-finger-wide bolt of lightning. The dummy glowed red for an instant before fading. Red was better than blue, the class gasped. He turned triumphantly toward Clara again. She wasn't even looking at him. She was whispering with me about something. His face cycled through several shades of fury. "Next, Clara." She stuck her tongue out at me playfully and jogged onto the field. No staff, no fancy preparation. She just pointed one finger downward at the dummy and muttered her incantation. A bolt of lightning as thick as a fist crashed down from above. The dummy blazed bright red for a full 3 seconds before fading. No staff, no magic core, just raw power that completely dwarfed Kale's enhanced attack. The class went silent with awe. Even the hook-nosed judge smiled and nodded approvingly. Kale's face went through another color show. He eventually consoled himself by deciding it was only natural that his goddess was stronger than him. Clara bowed politely, then bounced back to my side, and we continued our conversation like nothing had happened. Kale looked like the lightning had hit him instead of the dummy. Next, Nawe. The chubby boy walked to the center looking nervous. He pulled out a magic staff. Nothing fancy, but the hook-nosed judge's eyes suddenly went wide when he saw it. Interesting. Nawe chanted his spell and swung the staff. A 3-finger-wide lightning bolt shot toward the dummy and missed. It grazed the dummy's shoulder and hit the ground beside it. The dummy barely flickered. Everyone laughed. Nawe panicked, firing bolt after bolt, each one landing everywhere except on the target. His magic reserves were draining fast. If he kept this up, he'd fail. The judges frowned. Things looked bad. Calm down, I shouted from the sideline. Stay focused. Imagine that dummy is your favorite dish. Nawe flinched, looked back at me for just a second with grateful eyes, then turned to face the dummy. He licked his lips. Then he closed his eyes. His voice shifted, deeper, more intense, chanting an incantation I'd never heard before. He slowly raised both hands above his head, and a glowing ring of circular lightning formed between his palms. He stood there in the center of the field, holding that crackling electric halo like an offering to the sky. On the final syllable, his eyes snapped open. Thunder ring slash. He hurled the lightning ring at the dummy. It screamed through the air and slammed into the dummy's chest, trying to cut clean through. Blinding red light erupted, even brighter and longer than Clara's attack. The light and the lightning ring faded together after several seconds. Dead silence. Nobody could believe the class clown had just done that. Nawe doubled over, hands on knees, gasping. That technique had drained him nearly dry. The hook-nosed judge didn't look surprised at all. He seemed to recognize the technique. Apparently, it was a family secret from some powerful noble clan. Nawe just wasn't strong enough yet to unleash its full potential. Student Nawe, pass. The class snapped out of their shock. Everyone reassessed the chubby kid they'd been laughing at. Clara recognized the technique too. Nobles knew more about each other's family secrets than common people realized. But she wasn't impressed enough to make a fuss. She had her own family techniques she hadn't needed to use. Nawe came flying back, grabbed me in a crushing bear hug that nearly popped my spine, and started asking if his move had looked cool. Clara covered her smile beside us. Before I could roast him properly, the host called out, "Next, Asura." Every eye in the class locked onto me. The moment of truth. I calmly adjusted my tattered robe, walked to the center of the field, and stopped 10 paces from the dummy. Then I reached into my storage belt. A flash of white light. Everyone expected a magic staff. I pulled out my twin sabers. I spun them once, settled into something that looked very much like the Thunder Rush fist opening stance, except with blades, and faced the dummy. Every person in the arena, students and judges alike, stared in total confusion. What magic technique requires twin sabers? What spell needs a martial arts stance? I let out a roar, exploded forward, 10 paces closed in the blink of an eye, and crossed both blades in a scissors slash aimed at the dummy's throat. A dull thud. The test dummy's head flew high into the air.